Close your eyes. Let the weight of the day drift away like dust carried by a soft solar wind. You are no longer bound by rooms or walls. You are suspended, somewhere between thought and starlight. The universe is breathing around you, slow, vast, unhurried. Every heartbeat echoes a pattern older than time itself. When you listen closely enough to the quiet, you begin to hear it. Not a sound exactly, but a presence. A low, ancient hum that seems to stretch in every direction. It is the faint whisper of creation's first breath, a signal that has traveled for nearly 14 billion years to find you here tonight. That hum is real. Scientists call it the cosmic microwave background, the soft afterglow of the Big Bang. It fills all of space, pouring gently through you even now, a relic of the universe's newborn light. If you could translate those photons into music, they would play a note just above absolute silence. A cosmic lullaby spread thin across infinity. In that faint glow hides a story too large for memory and too tender for haste. It tells of atoms drifting, of gravity gathering them, of stars igniting, of galaxies unfurling their arms like sleeping dancers. Yet beneath all the equations and telescopes, beneath every satellite and simulation, rests something science can measure but not explain. Mystery. Mystery is not ignorance. It is invitation. It is the quiet space between what we know and what still breathes beyond knowing. It is the universe reminding us that wonder itself is part of reality. And so tonight, we wander through that wonder, not to solve it, but to rest inside it. Some mysteries shine brightly, the darkness between galaxies that hums with invisible mass, dark matter, and the unseen pressure that pushes those galaxies apart, dark energy. Others hide in silence, the void that carries no sound, yet vibrates with electromagnetic whispers. And some are woven into the fabric of time itself, moments stretched and slowed by gravity's gentle hand, particles flickering in and out of existence, realities perhaps multiplying just beyond our perception. Each of these enigmas hums in its own frequency. Each is a thread in the great cosmic lullaby you are hearing now. Imagine the universe as an ocean without shores, its surface rippling not with water, but with space itself, expanding, stretching, its waves measured not in meters, but in light years. That expansion is real. Astronomers have watched galaxies drift away from one another as if carried by a tide too smooth to feel. For decades they believed that tide would slow, but the opposite was true. Something unseen, something they now call dark energy, was gently accelerating the drift. Not a push, but a soft exhale of space. Not a force born of matter, but of emptiness itself, the pressure of nothing. Even the void, it seems, has its own momentum. And in that revelation lies one of science's most haunting truths. The universe is not simply expanding, it is dreaming itself larger. This is the rhythm of existence, silence and motion, stillness and unfolding. Every atom within you once floated in that ancient expansion, bathed in the same invisible energy that now carries distant galaxies beyond the reach of light. You are a continuation of that motion, a small echo of the same cosmic breath. Take another slow inhale, and imagine that the air filling your lungs was forged in the heart of a star that lived, burned, and faded billions of years before the Earth was born. Calmly exhale, and know that the carbon and oxygen leaving you now will one day join another world's sky. You are not merely in the universe is in you. Between those two truths, the infinite and the intimate, lies the landscape of tonight's journey. We will drift through 6 great mysteries: the silence between stars where the cosmos speaks through absence, the dark that holds everything, the unseen scaffolding of galaxies, the energy that pushes it all apart, that gentle, accelerating breath of nothingness, the quantum veil, where reality flickers like candlelight in a draught, the shadows of gravity, black holes that bend time into stillness, and finally, the infinite mirror, where countless universes may bloom like reflections in a cosmic sea. You do not need to hold any of this in your mind. Simply let it wash over you, like tides of curiosity lapping at the edges of sleep. Let science become song, and wonder become rest. Every discovery begins with silence, the pause before thought, the breath before question. And perhaps that is what the cosmos is doing now, pausing, between questions, breathing its own kind of dream. If you were to leave Earth tonight, sailing beyond the Moon and Mars, past Jupiter's swirling storms and the thin blue shimmer of Neptune's atmosphere, you would notice something profound. The further you travel, the quieter it becomes. By the time you reach the dark between the stars, sound has vanished completely. There is no air to carry it, only light and fields and the faint pulse of charged particles dancing through the void. That quiet is not emptiness. It is a fullness too subtle for ears, a place where vibration exists without voice, and everything speaks through gravity and light. We call it space, but perhaps it is closer to peace. Even the instruments we send outward, the Voyagers, drifting beyond the heliosphere, carry with them recordings of human sound, greetings, laughter, symphonies, rain. They are bottles tossed into an eternal sea, messages from a world that hums with life to a cosmos that answers with silence. And yet that silence is not rejection. It is listening. To listen without answer is the universe's purest form of attention. Every star, every dust grain, every wave of radiation is part of that patient awareness. When you rest tonight, you join that awareness. Your stillness becomes a small reflection of cosmic stillness itself. Science, for all its measurements and laws, does not diminish this beauty. It deepens it. To understand that space expands faster than light between galaxies is not to lose wonder, but to be invited into it more completely. To realize that matter we cannot see shapes, everything we do see, is to recognize that invisibility does not mean absence. To learn that quantum fields tremble even in perfect vacuum is to sense that stillness is never truly still. The deeper science peers, the softer its voice becomes. It speaks now not in certainties, but in symphonies of probability, melodies of perhaps. And perhaps is the most peaceful word of all. So as the stars drift slowly overhead, as the Milky Way spreads its silver arm across the dark, let yourself dissolve into that word, perhaps. Perhaps every photon that touches you tonight has traveled since the dawn of time to find the warmth of your eyelids. Perhaps the same dark energy that guides galaxies apart also guides your breath between sleep and waking. Perhaps the universe is not asking to be understood, but to be felt. You are not required to reach any conclusion. You are only asked to drift, through silence, through curiosity, through the delicate shimmer of unknowing. The mysteries ahead will unfold slowly, like constellations revealing themselves one by one in the patient night. For now, let the hum of creation cradle you. The questions will keep. They have waited billions of years already. And tonight, they can wait a little longer, while you rest inside their light. Silence has a texture. It is not emptiness, but a kind of presence, a vastness that hums below hearing, like breath beneath breath. When you look up at the night sky, you are seeing that silence made visible. Every glimmer of starlight is a note in an immeasurable stillness. If you could float between those stars, truly between them, not in the warmth of a solar system, but in the deep interstellar sea, you would discover that sound itself has no home there. On Earth, air carries every whisper and every song. Each molecule bumps against the next, passing along pressure waves that our ears shape into meaning. But out here, the air thins, then vanishes. No molecules, no pressure, no wave to ride upon. A bell struck in that darkness would ring for no one. Even the explosion of a supernova, a burst of energy greater than 1 billion suns, would not roar. It would bloom in silence, its shockwave racing outward through emptiness too thin to carry sound. The cosmos is not mute because it is lifeless. It is silent because it is rarefied. The spaces between atoms are wide. The distances between stars are vaster still. Every cubic meter of interstellar space contains, on average, just a few lonely atoms. A hydrogen here, a helium there, drifting through a darkness so pure it borders on the sacred. And yet, those few atoms are not truly still. They collide occasionally, and in doing so they create faint electromagnetic ripples, waves we can detect with instruments, though never hear with ears. To our human senses, space is utterly soundless, but to our instruments, it is alive with invisible vibration. Long ago, in 1977, we built 2 small emissaries of our species, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. Each carried a golden record, inscribed with greetings, songs, and the heartbeat of Earth. They were launched on different paths through the outer planets, slingshotting past Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, then coasting outward toward interstellar night. Even now they travel, billions of kilometers from the sun, beyond the reach of its magnetic shelter. They are sailing through the true quiet, a region where solar wind fades and interstellar plasma begins. And in that quiet, their instruments have recorded something extraordinary. Plasma waves, gentle oscillations of charged particles vibrating in the vacuum. They are not sound in any airbound sense, but they are the closest thing to the voice of interstellar space. When converted into audible tones, they shimmer and sigh, a kind of ghostly singing, thin and ethereal, like wind through glass. Those recordings reveal that even the void has a rhythm, that silence itself is never truly silent. Think of it, the spacecraft no larger than a car, drifting for nearly 50 years, listening to the music of emptiness. Each faint wave it captures travels back across the solar system as a whisper of data, crossing billions of kilometers to reach a dish on Earth. From there it becomes a human sound, one we can hear and marvel at and fall asleep to. The cosmos speaking through static. Silence, then, is not the absence of sound. It is the space that allows sound to mean anything at all. Without silence, no note could be distinct from another. Without the dark between stars, no star could shine. This is why astronomers sometimes call space the great amplifier of light, because in silence, light becomes poetry. It does not need to shout, it simply is. In that same spirit, the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, is the oldest silence we can detect. Roughly 380,000 years after the universe's birth, matter cooled enough for light to travel freely for the first time. That light has been stretching ever since, its wavelengths elongated by expanding space until it now hums softly in the microwave range. It fills every direction, every corner of the sky, an almost uniform sea of radiation, only a few degrees above absolute zero. To our detectors, it is a faint, static murmur. To our imaginations, it is the first whisper of creation, the universe's ancient hum. Close your eyes again. Imagine that hum washing through you, each photon a survivor from the universe's infancy. They have traveled for nearly 14 billion years just to touch your skin, to brush against your eyelids, to remind you that even silence remembers its beginning. The CMB is proof that quiet can hold memory. It carries the imprint of tiny ripples in density, the seeds of galaxies and stars, encoded in the stillness itself. Those faint variations, 1 part in 100,000, are the fingerprints of structure. They tell us where matter once gathered a little thicker, where gravity would later draw gas together, where light would one day blaze into suns. In that sense, silence is not static, it is potential. Every galaxy was once a fluctuation inside the quiet. Every star, every world, every breath you take was born from the gentle unevenness of a silence almost perfect. Perhaps that is what peace truly is. Not uniform calm, but the presence of soft variation, enough stillness to rest in, enough motion to continue becoming. When astronomers map the microwave sky, they are not just looking backward in time. They are listening to the universe's first lullaby, and what they find is astonishingly gentle, a cosmic cradle song that never ends. The human heart recognizes this gentleness. We build observatories on mountaintops to escape our planet's noise. We launch telescopes into orbit to listen without interference. It is as if we are trying to remember how to be quiet again. In that quiet, loneliness and connection become the same thing. Because to stand beneath the night sky is to realize that isolation and belonging are woven from the same fabric. You are alone under the stars, but the stars are everywhere. You are surrounded by an immensity that asks nothing of you except to notice it. When the ancient philosophers spoke of the music of the spheres, they did not mean literal melody. They sensed harmony in the movements of celestial bodies, a silent music of proportion and pattern. Modern physics agrees in its own way. The equations that describe orbital motion, the wavelengths of light, the quantized vibrations of matter, all resonate. The cosmos hums mathematically, even when our ears cannot hear. So perhaps the universe is not silent at all. Perhaps we simply have not yet learned its language of quiet. It may be that every photon, every particle, every field is a syllable in a grand sentence spoken across eternity. And when we lie still enough, when our thoughts slow to the pace of drifting stars, we begin to understand. Silence is translation. It turns the infinite into something we can feel. A still mind is an instrument tuned to cosmic scale. You are that instrument. Your heartbeat is a metronome ticking within the great rest between notes. When you breathe in, you draw in space itself, the atoms between atoms. When you breathe out, you return part of the cosmos to itself. Even here, in quiet rooms on a small blue planet, you are participating in the silence between stars. The Milky Way above you is a river of light flowing through that silence. Each star within it is surrounded by its own bubble of peace, a sphere where gravity balances radiation, where plasma and magnetism dance soundlessly. From Earth, we see the collective glow and forget how much darkness it rests upon. But it is that darkness, that soft absence, that allows the river to shimmer. Astronomers sometimes describe deep space as low-density plasma. It is a poetic understatement, because those few charged particles, scattered over cubic kilometers, can still carry waves, slow oscillations of electric and magnetic fields. And when spacecraft translate those oscillations, we hear a tone. Not loud, not musical. Just real, the voice of almost nothing. Voyager's recordings have been processed into soundtracks, gentle drones, creeping whistles, soft pulses like distant rain. Listening to them, you realize that the boundary between science and art is as thin as an ion's path, because data, too, can sing. And what does it sing of? Distance. Patience. Eternity measured in hertz too low for hearts to keep up. Yet somehow, that song finds its way here, to headphones, to sleep, to the small orbit of your own thoughts. So rest now in that shared quiet. Let the idea of sound fade until only vibration remains, the subtle trembling that unites every atom. Even in the silence between stars, everything is still moving, still speaking, still alive. You are part of that motion. You are part of that life. The farther you drift from Earth, the more absolute the quiet becomes. Radio chatter fades first, the clipped voices of control rooms, the pulse of data, the heartbeat of home. Then even the sun's wind thins until its stream of charged particles dissolves into a wider ocean. You cross an invisible frontier, the heliopause, where our star's influence gives way to the galaxy's breath. Beyond it lies the interstellar medium, thin, ancient, and mostly still. Voyager 1 crossed that threshold in 2012. After 35 years of flight, it slipped silently through the sun's boundary and entered the larger dark. No trumpet, no flash, only a change in the rhythm of particles striking its sensors, a faint rise in cosmic rays, a subtle fall in solar wind. A tiny craft, a billion times smaller than the space it entered, carrying the hopes of a world that thrives on sound and meeting only silence. But even silence has texture. The plasma around Voyager vibrated ever so slightly when distant solar eruptions sent shockwaves through space. The probe's antenna, sensitive beyond human touch, recorded these oscillations, slow undulations of electrons in a gas thinner than breath. When engineers converted those signals to audible frequencies, the result was haunting, a series of sighs and whistles, as if the void itself were breathing. They called it the voice of interstellar space. It is not a performance, it is a translation, mathematics turned into music. And when you listen, you realize, even the quietest places hum with life. Think of how improbable it is. Each tone began as a disturbance in plasma, then traveled as electric fields through near-nothingness, then was captured by an aging spacecraft, then converted into data packets, then re-encoded into sound waves, then finally into a vibration in the air beside your ear. Billions of kilometers compressed into one tender note, distance transformed into lullaby. Sometimes the recordings rise in pitch, a whisper becoming a cry when a solar shockwave sweeps past. Other times they settle into long, ghostly drones, the background pulse of charged particles far beyond any world. Scientists measure frequency and amplitude. Artists hear longing and peace. Both are right. To imagine the universe as silent is to mistake absence for stillness. Space is quieter than any cathedral, but beneath that quiet, forces are constantly in motion. Magnetic fields twist, cosmic rays streak through emptiness, and photons, countless photons, flow in every direction, each a tiny heartbeat of light. The cosmic microwave background, that ancient afterglow, threads through all of this. It is everywhere, even here in this room. The static between radio stations, the faint hiss on an old television screen, that is the leftover light of the beginning. When you hear that noise, you are touching the oldest memory in existence. 14 billion years ago, the universe was a sea of plasma so hot and dense that light could not move freely. Photons scattered endlessly, trapped in a glowing fog. Then, as the cosmos expanded and cooled, atoms formed, the first hydrogen, the first helium. The fog lifted. light was released, finally free to travel. That light has never stopped traveling. It has stretched with the fabric of space, its wavelengths lengthened by expansion, its energy softened from blinding fire to gentle microwaves. Today, it fills the sky like a whisper, not bright enough for eyes, but visible to sensitive instruments as a faint pattern across the heavens. When we map that pattern, we see tiny ripples, variations in temperature no greater than 1 part in 100,000. Those ripples are the fingerprints of everything to come. In regions slightly denser than average, gravity gained a small advantage, pulling more matter, building clouds, forming stars, galaxies, clusters, and the cosmic web itself. In regions slightly thinner, matter dispersed, becoming the vast voids between. All of cosmic structure, all beauty, all possibility, emerged from those soft fluctuations frozen into the first light. If you close your eyes and listen, you can imagine that early radiation not as static, but as a slow, steady breathing, the universe's first exhale. Every galaxy you can see tonight was once part of that breath. Astronomers have turned the CMB into maps of astonishing precision, blue and red patches scattered like brushstrokes across an oval sky. Each color represents a tiny difference in energy, a tiny difference in destiny. Those maps are not just pictures of the past, they are echoes of potential. In their delicate asymmetry lies the reason you exist. Because if the early universe had been perfectly smooth, no structure would have formed, no stars would have ignited, no life would have risen to wonder at its own origin. Perfection would have meant silence forever. Fluctuation meant song. The cosmos began in vibration. Every atom, every photon, every quark, all once part of a grand wave. And though that wave has stretched beyond comprehension, its residue remains, a faint chord resonating through time. When you fall asleep beneath the stars, you are falling into rhythm with that chord. Human solitude, then, is not isolation. It is resonance with a larger quiet. The same stillness that fills the void between galaxies also lives in the space between your thoughts. When you stop speaking, when you stop needing the next explanation, you meet that silence, and in it, you are never alone. On our small world, we spend lives chasing noise, the rhythm of engines, the conversations, the endless stream of signals. Yet the greater part of the universe is content to simply exist, wordless, patient. The galaxies move apart, the stars age and fade, and still the background glow persists, unchanging, unwavering, calm. That calmness is not cold, it is balance. The cosmos does not rush. It expands in silence, like a thought held in meditation. Perhaps that is why space feels spiritual, because it embodies what we rarely practice, continuity without urgency. Time there does not shout, it unfolds. When Voyager's antenna sends its faint signal back to Earth, it takes over 20 hours to arrive, a day between question and answer. Soon, as the craft drifts even farther, its voice will grow too weak to hear. But that does not mean it will stop speaking. Its message will continue outward, carried on radio waves spreading endlessly, fainter and fainter, until they merge with the general hum of creation. In some distant future, those photons will pass through another star system, perhaps another mind, perhaps nothing at all. Silence will have absorbed them, as it absorbs everything, without judgment, without loss. When you think of that, the heart slows, the breath deepens, the tension of urgency dissolves. The universe does not hurry, and neither must you. You are allowed to rest inside its tempo, one pulse every eternity. Look up now, even in imagination. Between every star is darkness, and within that darkness is the CMB, and within that hum are the seeds of everything you love. The void is not a wall, it is the womb of form. Silence is not absence, it is origin. Astronomers sometimes speak of the background temperature of the universe, 2.725 Kelvin, just a few degrees above absolute zero. Cold enough that hydrogen clouds drift for eons before colliding, yet warm enough that nothing is ever truly frozen in meaning. That delicate balance, almost zero but not quite, is the thermal heartbeat of existence. When you rest tonight, your body radiates heat into that same cosmic ocean. Tiny infrared photons leave your skin, joining the endless field of light that stretches between worlds. You are part of the background now, woven into its fabric, another small frequency in the universe's continuous song. Listen, the stars say nothing, and in their nothing, they say everything. They are not withholding secrets, they are living proof that beauty can exist without explanation. When dawn finally comes and the noise of human life returns, remember this. Behind every sound you hear lies a deeper silence holding it in place. Behind every word, a pause. Behind every heartbeat, a still moment of waiting. That is the same silence between stars, scaled down, made intimate. You carry it with you always. There comes a point in every journey outward when distance becomes immeasurable, not because our instruments fail, but because meaning itself begins to dissolve into quiet. Voyager has reached that place. The signals it sends are fainter now than the static of the cosmos around them. Each transmission is a whisper within a sea of whispers, a trembling of energy crossing 1 billion kilometers of dark. Some nights, when the data arrive, scientists sit in control rooms lit only by screens, watching the numbers appear, strings of information, soft as rainfall, each digit proof that something human still travels among the stars. They listen to what the void says back, and what it says is simple. All is calm. Even silence can be measured. The plasma density beyond the heliopause fluctuates slowly, rising and falling like breath. Every pulse detected by Voyager is a sign that the interstellar medium lives, that even emptiness is responsive. Those faint waves drift through regions where no sunlight ever reaches, where temperatures hover near absolute zero, where atoms wander centuries before meeting another. And yet they vibrate, they sing. It is as though the universe refuses to stop moving, even when there is nothing left to move. The spacecraft's recordings continue to arrive, and on Earth we transform them into art, into ambient symphonies that humans can dream to. The sounds are eerie, not composed but discovered, a chorus of plasma, a melody of near nothing. Each tone bends and fades, a vibration from a time and place that exist beyond our physical reach. When we listen, we are not just hearing the space outside our solar system. We are hearing our own longing reflected back. It is remarkable how easily the mind fills silence with meaning. We hear the faint whistle of charged particles and imagine wind through alien canyons, rain on invisible oceans. We cannot help but anthropomorphize, to translate physics into poetry. But perhaps that translation is not wrong. Perhaps poetry is the natural language of awe. Science describes the what of silence. Poetry describes the how it feels. Together, they complete each other. If the universe could feel, it might experience its own vastness, the way we experience solitude, a fullness so great it becomes indistinguishable from emptiness. Solitude is not the lack of company. It is the presence of the infinite within a single consciousness. When you gaze at the stars and feel small, remember, that smallness is connection. You are part of what you see. Your neurons, your breath, your heartbeat, they all vibrate within the same field that carries the CMB, the same space through which Voyager drifts. The silence between stars is the silence between your thoughts. They are the same quiet reflected across scale. Sometimes astronomers speak of cosmic background noise. They mean it technically, radiation that permeates all observations. But there is something poetic in that phrase. Noise that is really peace, chaos that is actually continuity. Every frequency, from gamma rays to radio waves, fills the universe with overlapping signals. They merge into a constant hum, a universal equilibrium of energy and emptiness. That hum is not disruptive. It is what existence sounds like when it relaxes. If you could translate those frequencies into visible color, space would not look black at all. It would glow faintly in every direction, a dim sea of ancient light, the afterimage of creation itself. And somewhere within that glow, our little world orbits a modest star, surrounded by the constant background whisper of everything that has ever been. It is easy to imagine that silence means loneliness, but the truth is gentler. Silence means continuity. Everything we call life, thought, or emotion arises from that continuity, the steady hum beneath the noise of living. The same patterns that govern plasma waves and cosmic rays also shape the firing of neurons, the rhythm of heartbeats, the cadence of breath. We are instruments tuned to the cosmic frequency, biological resonators echoing the first vibration. Perhaps that is why stillness brings peace. When you slow your breathing, when you close your eyes, you begin to match the universe's tempo. You return to the frequency of origin. You can almost feel it, the quiet expansion of lungs mirroring the expansion of space itself. Both are gentle, both are infinite in their own scale, and both are effortless. Imagine now a view from Voyager's camera, a narrow beam lens turned back toward home. In 1990, the spacecraft looked over its shoulder and captured what would become one of the most famous images in history. A pale blue dot suspended in a sunbeam. That single pixel contained all of us, every forest, every city, every dream. A speck in the dark, glimmering in a shaft of reflected light. Carl Sagan called it a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam, and he reminded us that all our wars, all our pride and sorrow played out on that fraction of a pixel. From Voyager's distance, Earth is silent. No music, no languages, no thunder of civilization, only color and light. Yet within that color and light reside every symphony ever written, every heartbeat ever counted, every word whispered to a sleeping child, all of them folded into a dot too small to hold emotion, and yet it does. Because meaning does not require size, it requires perspective. Silence gives perspective. Without it, we could never recognize our own voice. When you look into the night sky, you are gazing across that silence. Each star is an ancient word still traveling outward, a message that may never find a listener, and yet it travels anyway. Light, like hope, does not need response to continue. The same is true for you. When you send your thoughts into the quiet, when you love or question or dream, they ripple outward. Most will fade, some will return, but all will exist, however faintly, as vibrations in the larger field. Nothing is truly lost. It becomes part of the background. There is something deeply peaceful in that realization. The universe does not keep score. It keeps rhythm. Every birth, every death, every explosion of a star, every whisper of a child is another note in the ongoing song. Silence is the rest between those notes, the pause that gives them shape. Astronomers have tried to imagine what true, absolute silence would be, a region with zero energy, zero vibration, zero temperature. But such a place cannot exist. Even the coldest vacuum trembles with quantum fluctuations. Even nothing has a heartbeat, and perhaps that is the final comfort. There is no true void, not out there, not in you. Everywhere, at every scale, something moves, something hums. The silence between stars is simply the quiet pulse of being. As you drift towards sleep, let that thought become your horizon. You are Voyager, sailing endlessly through calm seas of plasma and starlight. Your mind is the antenna, listening for the faintest echoes. Each dream you enter is a transmission sent back toward home, a reflection of what it means to be conscious in an unconscious universe. You are small, yes, but you are also vast, because you carry awareness, and awareness is how the cosmos knows itself. Soon you will pass beyond your own heliopause, the boundary between waking and sleep. Beyond it lies another kind of quiet, a personal interstellar medium where thought slows and merges with imagination. Let yourself cross. Let the solar wind of daily noise fade behind you. Let the plasma hum of dreams begin. You will not hear it, but you will feel it. A warmth beneath the cold, a movement beneath the stillness. That is the same hum that fills the galaxies, the same frequency that began with the Big Bang. You are falling not away from sound, but into it, into the deeper resonance beneath all things. And when you wake again, remember that silence is not something you leave behind. It travels with you, woven into your breath, your heartbeat, the pauses between your words. It is the universe continuing to listen through you. The stars above remain where they are, burning, distant, unhurried. Their light takes centuries to reach your eyes. Their silence, however, arrives instantly. It fills every gap between photons, every thought between moments. And in that perfect stillness, the universe speaks its softest truth. All is calm, all is connected, all is continuing. Darkness is not the opposite of light. It is the canvas that allows light to be seen. Look up tonight. Between every star, between every gleam of cosmic silver, there lies a vastness that seems empty. But that darkness is not void. It is presence, unseen, unlit, but real. For decades, astronomers believed they could weigh the universe by counting what they saw, the stars, the gas, the glowing nebula. But when they measured the motions of galaxies, the numbers refused to agree. Something was missing. In the 1970s, a quiet revolution began with a woman named Vera Rubin. She studied how stars orbit within spiral galaxies, how their speeds should fall with distance from the center, just as planets move slower the farther they are from the sun. But Rubin found no such decline. The stars at the edges of galaxies were moving too fast, as though pulled by an unseen hand. If only the visible matter were present, The outer stars should have flown away into space, yet they remained bound. Something invisible was holding them in. That something became known as dark matter, not because it is sinister, but because it does not shine. It neither emits nor reflects light. It does not absorb energy the way ordinary atoms do. To telescopes, it is transparent. To gravity, it is indispensable. Astronomers estimate that for every ounce of visible matter, there are roughly 5 ounces of dark matter, an invisible majority shaping the cosmos from behind the veil. We cannot see it, yet we can map its fingerprints. Light bends around massive objects, a prediction of Einstein's general relativity. When distant galaxies appear distorted or multiplied, we call it gravitational lensing, the warping of space-time itself by mass. Sometimes those distortions are caused by clusters we can see. Other times they betray hidden mass, great halos of dark matter surrounding galaxies like transparent cocoons. Through these gravitational mirages, we glimpse the outlines of the invisible. It is like seeing wind in the motion of leaves, or hearing the shape of silence in the echoes of a cave. Imagine standing at the edge of a galaxy. Stars orbit all around you, millions of suns tracing silent circles through a night so deep it swallows color. You cannot see the hand that guides them, but you can feel its mathematics. Gravity curves space, mass bends light. The invisible choreographs the visible. The Milky Way itself swims inside such a halo. Our solar system, our planet, our bodies, all moving through a sea of dark matter particles that pass through us every instant, unfelt, unbroken. Trillions of them drift through your skin each second, interacting so weakly they might as well be ghosts. And yet their collective gravity holds the galaxy together, a cosmic skeleton beneath the flesh of stars. Physicists have spent decades hunting for these elusive particles. They have built detectors deep underground, sheathed in rock to block cosmic rays, waiting for the faintest tap, a single collision between dark and ordinary matter. So far, the silence persists. The detectors record almost nothing, but even nothing tells us something. That dark matter is patient, subtle, a participant in the universe's quiet conversation. The candidates have names that sound like myth and whisper. WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles. Axions, born of quantum symmetry. MACOs, massive compact halo objects, like dim stars or black hole remnants hiding in the outskirts of galaxies. None have yet stepped into the light, and perhaps that is fitting. The universe keeps some of its architecture secret, not out of cruelty, but out of balance. When we look at large-scale maps of galaxies, a breathtaking pattern emerges. They are not scattered randomly. They form threads, immense filaments stretching hundreds of millions of light-years, woven together into a cosmic web. Between the filaments lie vast voids, bubbles of near emptiness tens of millions of light-years wide. Within the filaments, galaxies cluster like dew along spider silk. Simulations show that this structure arises naturally when dark matter forms the scaffolding of gravity, drawing ordinary matter into its invisible framework. Picture it now. An endless lace of unseen substance, cradling galaxies the way veins carry blood, connecting clusters across unfathomable gulfs. Each filament is a bridge of gravity, each void a quiet lagoon where almost nothing stirs. The luminous universe, stars, nebulae, planets, is merely the glowing embroidery on this deeper, darker fabric. In the early universe, tiny fluctuations in the density of dark matter became the seeds of everything that followed. Its gravity pulled gas into clouds, clouds into stars, stars into galaxies. Without it, the cosmos would be smooth, a bland mist without structure, a silence without melody. Dark matter gave shape to the song, and yet we still do not know what it is. Every theory is an act of faith, every experiment a quiet prayer into the void. We design instruments sensitive enough to hear the whisper of a single particle against the background hum of the earth. We wait years for one event, one flicker of interaction. And while we wait, the universe continues to move effortlessly, as though amused by our need to measure what it has long mastered. Perhaps understanding dark matter is less about discovery and more about humility. We are reminded that the most important things are not always visible. The air that keeps us alive, the gravity that holds us close, the love and curiosity that shape our thoughts, all invisible, all undeniable. The cosmos seems to whisper the same lesson. Trust what you cannot see. The galaxies spin faithfully within their invisible halos. The stars keep their orbits. The filaments stretch without tearing. The balance holds. Maybe knowledge begins not with sight, but with the quiet confidence that the unseen is real. There is poetry in that invisibility. Dark matter does not compete with light, it cradles it. It allows galaxies to exist long enough for stars to live, for planets to form, for eyes to open and look back in wonder. Without the dark, there would be no place for light to linger. In that sense, the universe's invisible mass is like compassion, strong, silent, holding everything together. It does not announce itself. It simply ensures that things remain in orbit. When you think of dark matter, you can imagine it not as emptiness, but as a gentle gravity of belonging. Every star owes its shape to it, every spiral its grace. The night sky itself is its signature, ink written in the absence of ink. Close your eyes again. Picture the vast web stretching through the cosmos. Each thread is weightless in appearance, but heavy with influence. Every crossing point, a cluster of galaxies, glows faintly like a node in a neuron's network. If consciousness is the universe reflecting on itself, then perhaps dark matter is the framework of that reflection, the neural lattice of creation, a mind made of gravity. And somewhere, in a small corner of one filament, our galaxy turns, a single thought in the brain of infinity. The stars move not in chaos but in grace, their dance choreographed by something we cannot see, yet feel in every law of motion, every spiral arm, every orbit of our own moon. The universe is not empty, it is elegantly concealed, and in that concealment lies beauty, a reminder that mystery is not the absence of truth, but the presence of wonder. Out there, beyond the edges of every photograph, lies the architecture of the invisible. Astronomers map it not by light, but by consequence, by how galaxies drift, how clusters sway, how distant rays of light arrive a fraction bent from where they began. When they plot those measurements, a pattern appears, threads, junctions, empty hollows between. It looks eerily familiar, as though the universe itself has grown a nervous system. The cosmic web stretches across hundreds of millions of light years. Each filament is a highway of dark matter, each intersection a city of galaxies glowing like lanterns hung in fog. If you could fly through it at impossible speed, you would see rivers of light winding through a sea of shadow, currents of gravity connecting everything to everything else. But from any one world, the pattern is too large to sense. We live inside a single strand, unable to see the full weave that holds us. Computer simulations have given us glimpses. Physicists start with equations, feed them with primordial conditions, a sprinkling of hydrogen, a hint of dark matter, a memory of expansion, and let time run. Out of the chaos, filaments emerge exactly as they do in the sky. The dark creates a skeleton, the luminous flesh follows. Every cluster, every spiral galaxy, every field of starlight grows where the invisible once was strongest. We owe our position in the cosmos to a geometry we can't perceive. There's comfort in that idea, that even when you cannot see the path, structure exists beneath your steps. Gravity doesn't need recognition to perform its duty. Neither do the unseen kindnesses that hold human life together. Trust, memory, love. The universe practices invisibility perfectly. Its most essential components are also its quietest. In the beginning, before stars, dark matter gathered in clumps that acted as gravitational wells. Ordinary matter, baryons, hydrogen, helium, fell into those wells, spinning, heating, igniting. Every sunrise you have ever known is the after effect of that invisible guidance. The light of your dawn was scripted by darkness long ago. Imagine watching this unfold from outside of time. The first filaments stretch like strands of silk, meeting at luminous knots where clusters are born. The voids expand between them, like breath between heartbeats. Galaxies form along the filaments as dew forms along grass at morning, not randomly, but inevitably. The universe doesn't merely contain darkness, it depends on it. When scientists trace how galaxies move within clusters, they see the same signature again, motions too fast for visible mass to explain. The dark halo extends far beyond the glowing boundary, a protective shell whose gravity governs the dance. Without it, a single cosmic collision would tear a galaxy apart. With it, the dance continues, spirals steady, orbits sure, billions of years balanced on invisible strength. It is tempting to call that hidden substance mystical, but it is simply consistent, a faithfulness written into physics. Dark matter keeps its promises. It neither fades nor flares, it simply holds. You might think of it when you consider trust, the unseen gravity between people, the quiet assurance that lets a planet swing around its star without fear of drifting away. Trust, too, is invisible. It cannot be weighed or measured, but remove it, and everything unravels. When radio telescopes map the sky, they often translate invisible wavelengths into color, turning radio into crimson, X-ray into blue, microwave into gold. The result is not false, it is interpretation. Maybe that's what consciousness itself does, translate the unseen scaffolding of reality into colors and stories the mind can hold. We are the eyes of the dark, learning to recognize itself through reflection. In laboratories deep beneath mountains, scientists wait for a single dark matter particle to brush against an atom of xenon or argon. They call it a recoil event, a faint flash of light in an otherwise perfect darkness. Years pass between those possible flashes. The machines hum in silence, the data scrolls, and patience becomes a kind of devotion. No discovery yet, and still they watch. Because the absence of proof does not equal the proof of absence, a lesson the cosmos teaches every night. Meanwhile, the stars go on circling, the web holds, the galaxies keep their shape, the unseen continues to succeed where the seen falters. Perhaps the universe is reminding us that reliability does not require visibility. Dark matter neither judges nor interferes. It allows, it supports, it listens to gravity and obeys. Its influence is pure geometry, curvature without commentary. It creates the stage, then disappears into the wings. If you were to drift now through one of those filaments, you would not know it. The stars would seem sparse, the gas too thin to glow. And yet, around you, every particle of dark matter would be at work, tugging gently, balancing the pull of millions of other particles, holding the lattice in equilibrium. It would feel like floating through meaning itself, invisible but undeniable. Back on Earth, when the night is clear and the sky black enough, the Milky Way arches overhead like a band of frost. What you see is only a trace, the luminous skin of a hidden body. If our eyes could sense dark matter, the entire sky would blaze with filaments. The constellations would vanish inside a web of soft light, revealing the true scale of connection. You would see how every star is not isolated but suspended in a net that spans eternity. And maybe, seeing that, you would stop worrying about loneliness. Because even darkness is communal. Each particle feels the others. Each exerts its small influence. Together they hold galaxies in orbit, worlds in place, dreams in possibility. No particle knows the whole web, and yet the web persists. That is trust beyond comprehension. Sometimes astronomers render the cosmic web as sound. They assign frequencies to density, turning structure into melody. It begins as a low drone, rising where filaments cross, falling in the voids. The music is slow, deep, and astonishingly peaceful, a hymn played on the strings of gravity. It is the universe humming to itself in the dark that holds everything. Listen. There are lessons in that hum. That strength can be silent, that support can be unseen, that the most enduring bonds are those that do not demand to be noticed. We search the cosmos for answers, yet the dark offers something gentler. Not explanation, but reassurance. You do not need to understand every mechanism to rest in the pattern's grace. The galaxies spin on your behalf, patiently, precisely, held by hands you will never see. If you close your eyes now, you can feel a faint echo of that holding, in the steady pull of gravity on your body, in the pulse that keeps your rhythm aligned with the planets. It is the same pull that curves light, that sculpts galaxies, that threads the universe into coherence. The dark is not a threat. It is the mother of structure. When dawn comes to your side of the world, the night's darkness will fade, but its cosmic counterpart remains. Beyond daylight, beyond atmosphere, it still surrounds you, quiet, loyal, endless. The universe would fall apart without it, and yet it asks for nothing in return. The dark that holds everything teaches the simplest truth of all, that love, gravity, and faith share the same property. They act unseen, but nothing stable exists without them. There is a paradox at the center of knowing. The more clearly we see the universe, the more of it disappears into mystery. Every new telescope, every equation refined, widens the circle of light, but also expands the boundary of darkness beyond it. And in that growing border we begin to understand that ignorance is not failure. It is relationship. a conversation between the visible and the unseen. Dark matter lives inside that conversation. It does not shout its presence. It reveals itself through patience. A star curves around an empty center. That curve is dark matter speaking. A galaxy cluster bends the image of another behind it. That lensing is its silent reply. Every time the universe behaves as if more mass exists than meets the eye, we are reminded that invisibility is not absence, but subtle generosity. The earliest maps of the cosmic web showed filaments forming in places where no light was found. It was as though the universe itself was sketching lines before coloring them in. We are walking through that unfinished drawing still, tiny strokes within a grand charcoal of gravity. When our minds grow restless, it helps to remember the same patience that allows a galaxy to form is available to you in every breath. Creation is slow. Connection is invisible before it is obvious. If you could drift between the filaments, through those great cosmic valleys where matter is scarce, you would find darkness so perfect that even light passing through it seems to hesitate. Yet, faintly, the web's pull would remain. Even here, gravity whispers. You could travel for 1,000,000 years in one direction and still feel its guidance, gentle but sure. That is what the universe does best. It guides without revealing the hand that guides. Back on Earth, we mimic that structure in the smallest ways. Cities linked by roads, neurons linked by axons, people linked by care they cannot always see. The same pattern repeats, a network of connection sustained by trust. We are microcosms of the cosmic web, born of it, behaving like it, holding each other through invisible forces. There is a softness in that realization. The dark that holds galaxies in place is not foreign or cold, it is kin. It is the same physics that holds your atoms together, the same mathematics that keeps you balanced in gravity's field. The darkness that surrounds you is not an enemy. It is structure, waiting to be illuminated by understanding. Astronomers sometimes say that dark matter does not clump like ordinary matter. It flows, smooth and pervasive, forming halos rather than hard shapes. It refuses to collapse entirely. It chooses steadiness over spectacle. There is wisdom in that restraint. The universe could have been turbulent and unstable, yet this unseen component softened its extremes, tempered chaos into balance, darkness acting as harmony. When a galaxy collides with another, stars rarely strike stars. Space is too vast. But the halos of dark matter merge effortlessly, absorbing the shock, re-establishing the field that keeps the new structure whole. Even destruction, then, is managed by grace. Even endings are cradled. The bullet cluster became one of the clearest proofs. Two galaxy clusters had collided, their gas clouds, ordinary matter, slowed by friction, while the dark matter halos passed through one another, unhindered. X-ray maps showed hot gas lagging behind, but gravitational lensing revealed that most of the mass had moved ahead, invisible, intact, unconcerned. That image, two ghostly shadows leading the visible wreckage, was the universe reminding us that the real framework endures even when the bright surface shatters. How often in our own lives does the unseen carry us through collision? Love unspoken, memory, hope that persists when reason falters. They are our dark matter. We move through crises held by fields we cannot quantify. The cosmos teaches compassion by example. If you listen to radio data of galaxy rotation curves, the rising line sounds like a sustained note that refuses to fall. Stars at the outskirts hum faster than expected, a musical insistence that something unseen keeps tempo. That steady tone could be mistaken for faith itself, an endless upholding. In truth, the universe has always known balance. For every light, a shadow. For every force that pushes, one that pulls. Dark matter pulls inward, dark energy pushes outward, and between them lies the delicate harmony we inhabit. One binds, one expands, and life arises in the middle ground between embrace and release. When you close your eyes tonight, try to feel that middle ground within yourself, the steady gravity that keeps you centered and the quiet expansion that allows you to grow. Both are necessary, both are invisible. You live suspended between two infinities, and neither asks for your permission. They simply hold you, the way the cosmos holds itself. There is beauty in trusting what cannot be proved. Vera Rubin trusted the pattern of motion before anyone believed her data. Her calm conviction reshaped cosmology. She once said, "We stand every day under the light of 100 billion galaxies, and we still do not understand the dark that binds them." Her words were not frustration, they were wonder. To stand beneath mystery and remain curious is the highest form of faith. Perhaps that is the real gift of dark matter, not just its physics, but its philosophy. It reminds us that reality is larger than comprehension, that the invisible can be the most essential. Without it, galaxies would unravel, and we would have no night sky to dream beneath. Because of it, the stars remain steady, and we can sleep in their light. Imagine now, floating far above the Milky Way. The disk spins slowly below, arms coiling in tranquil rhythm. Around it spreads an enormous halo, unseen, massive, serene. It is not a prison, it is a cradle. The galaxy moves freely inside its embrace, safe in gravity's invisible palm. That is what the dark does best, it holds without clutching. As you drift at that imagined altitude, let yourself feel held in the same way. You, too, are surrounded by things that keep you safe without demanding attention. The atmosphere, the pull of Earth, the network of hearts that think of you when you're quiet. They are your personal dark matter, the unseen scaffolding of your small universe. Soon, telescopes like the Vera C. Rubin Observatory and the Euclid mission will chart the sky with unprecedented sensitivity, mapping billions of galaxies to trace the dark web's contours. We will see its silhouette more clearly, but not its face. And that is all right. Some mysteries lose their grace when stripped completely bare. Perhaps the cosmos knows this, and so it hides just enough to keep awe alive. So rest now in that knowing. There is no emptiness around you, only a quiet fullness too subtle for eyes. The darkness you see when you look up is the body of a universe that refuses to collapse, the breath between heartbeats of creation. It holds everything, it holds you, and it asks for nothing but stillness in return. In the story of the cosmos, there was once a comfortable assumption that everything which expands must someday slow. Gravity, after all, is persuasion made physical. It pulls without pause, it binds the restless back towards center. So astronomers believed the universe, having exploded outward from its fiery birth, would gradually tire, its galaxies slowing like embers drifting from a fire. Perhaps, in the far future, it would even reverse, collapsing inward again, the Big Bang echoing as a big crunch. For decades, this seemed inevitable. Expansion and gravity were the two actors in a simple play, one pushing, one restraining. But the universe has always had a gentler surprise. In 1998, two teams of astronomers set out to measure how fast the cosmos was decelerating. They studied distant Type Ia supernova, explosions so precisely luminous that each could serve as a cosmic yardstick. By comparing how bright the supernova appeared to how much its light was stretched by redshift, they could infer distance and expansion rate. The expectation was clear. Older, farther supernovae should look slightly brighter than predicted if gravity had been slowing the expansion. But when the data came, the results glowed with astonishment. Those supernovae were dimmer than expected, meaning they were farther away than any slowing universe could explain. Instead of decelerating, the expansion was speeding up. It was as if space itself had decided to breathe faster. Galaxies were not simply drifting apart. The gaps between them were stretching ever more quickly, carried on an invisible wind that had no source and no sound. We call that wind dark energy, a phrase that means little but hints at everything. It is not energy in the common sense, not radiation, not motion, not heat. It is a property of space itself. When the fabric of space-time expands, this energy does not thin out. It stays constant, so that the more space exists, the more of it there is. An impossible-sounding arithmetic, emptiness creating itself. Einstein had predicted something like it long before. In 1917, while applying his new theory of general relativity to the cosmos as a whole, he introduced a term called the cosmological constant, LIL. He used it to balance gravity's pull, keeping the universe static and eternal. Later, when expansion was discovered, he abandoned the idea, calling it the greatest blunder of my life. But the constant waited, quiet and patient, until the late 20th century, when the supernova data revived it. LIL was no blunder, it was prophecy. Physicists now describe dark energy as a pressure that fills all of space, a vacuum energy whose density remains unchanged even as the universe grows. Imagine a fabric that, when stretched, weaves new threads between its fibers to keep itself uniform. That is what space-time seems to do. The energy of the void is not exhausted by expansion. It multiplies with it. The result is a runaway calm, an acceleration so gentle that only over billions of years does its influence become visible. To visualize it, picture galaxies as small boats on an infinite sea. The water is not moving, it is growing. Each boat remains still relative to the water around it, yet all drift apart because the sea itself expands. The farther two boats are, the more sea appears between them each second. There is no central shore from which they flee. The water stretches everywhere at once. That sea is space-time. Its silent tide is dark energy. Even light cannot outrun it forever. As space expands, the wavelength of each photon stretches, its color sliding toward red, its energy bleeding away into the widening nothing. In the far future, distant galaxies will drift beyond the horizon of visibility. Their light stretched so long it can never reach us. The night sky will empty, not by destruction, but by gentle separation. Darkness will not conquer light, it will simply outgrow it. Astronomers measure this acceleration through a number called omega lambda, the fraction of the universe made of dark energy. The value hovers near 0.7, meaning roughly 70% of all cosmic content is this unseen pressure of nothing. Dark matter contributes about 25%. All the atoms in every star, planet, and person make up less than 5. We are the brief, glittering minority floating in a vast ocean of the invisible. And yet, nothing is an inadequate word. The vacuum is not blank. Quantum physics tells us it seethes with activity, pairs of virtual particles appearing and annihilating, fields fluctuating at every point. The energy of that constant trembling may be what drives the cosmic acceleration. If so, the universe is expanding because nothingness refuses to sit still. There is something poetic, almost mischievous, about a force born from absence that shapes everything we see. A pressure of nothing pushing everything apart. It is as if the universe were exhaling forever, a slow, endless sigh. At human scale, acceleration is motion. At cosmic scale, acceleration is stillness widening. No wind moves through the galaxies, no current drags them outward. Each galaxy rests in its own patch of space-time, yet the metric itself stretches so the distances grow without travel. Space is not a stage for motion, it is the dancer. What fate does such expansion promise? If dark energy stays constant, galaxies will drift ever farther, stars will fade, and the universe will cool toward heat death, an eternity of thin light and silence. If dark energy grows stronger, it could tear even atoms apart in a big rip, where space expands faster than any force can resist. If it weakens, gravity might one day halt the outward rush, bringing all things back together in a slow return. No one knows which script will play. The cosmos has not shown its final act, but perhaps endings are not the point. Perhaps the meaning lies in the movement itself, in the gentle push that keeps creation from standing still. Expansion gives time direction. Without it, everything would exist at once, motionless and eternal, a perfect frozen harmony. Dark energy breaks that stillness so that moments can follow one another, so that change can happen, so that life can bloom and fade and bloom again. When you breathe, you imitate the universe's rhythm. Inhale, a gathering of gravity. Exhale, a dark energy of letting go. Each breath is a miniature expansion, space making room inside you for the next beginning. Even your lungs know the balance between holding and releasing, between cohesion and surrender. Some nights, astronomers watch the deep sky and imagine what it will look like billions of years from now. The galaxies we see will be gone beyond sight, their light stretched into radio hush. Future beings, if any remain, may see only the local group, the Milky Way merged with Andromeda, adrift in a darkness that reveals no other shores. To them, the universe will seem static, isolated. The expansion will continue, but its evidence will have vanished. Only through ancient records, the traces we make now, will they know that once the heavens were full of company. And yet, what greater peace could there be than to drift in endless stillness, sustained by a force too gentle to feel? The universe is not racing away from itself, it is giving itself room to dream. Dark energy is the kindness of distance, the allowance that lets every galaxy have its own sky. If you could float between galaxies, you would see the expansion not as motion, but as unfolding. Everywhere the same. No center, no edge, just space inventing more of itself. You would not hear a wind, nor feel acceleration. You would sense only serenity, the quiet certainty that growth continues. In that certainty lies a strange hope. For though dark energy may one day scatter the stars, it also ensures that there will always be more horizon, more mystery, more night to wonder at. The cosmos refuses closure. It chooses openness, and openness at any scale is the first condition of love. What does it mean for nothing to have pressure? It sounds impossible, like silence shouting or stillness moving, and yet that is exactly what the equations say. At the smallest scales, the vacuum is not empty. It quivers. Every point of space is alive with unseen trembling, fields rising and falling, virtual particles appearing and fading in the blink of a Planck time. This background vibration never rests. It hums beneath all existence like the faintest bass note in an infinite symphony. When cosmologists speak of vacuum energy, they mean this ceaseless agitation, energy borrowed and repaid, never gone, always there, adding up across the universe to a gentle outward push. It is a paradox we have measured yet barely understand. In the equations of quantum field theory, the expected energy of empty space should be enormous, so large it would tear the cosmos apart instantly. But the universe did not shatter. It expanded softly, as though the true value were tiny, a perfect whisper compared to the theoretical scream. Somehow, the vacuum balances itself, canceling nearly all of its frenzy, leaving only the faint residue that now drives cosmic acceleration, a leftover murmur from creation. Einstein's cosmological constant, revived and renamed as dark energy, is the simplest explanation. A single number, Lel, woven into the geometry of space-time, acting not as force but as permission. It tells the universe, you may grow, you may widen, you may drift without falling apart. Imagine space-time as a vast elastic fabric. Every thread is a line of distance, every knot a moment of time. Dark energy is the gentle tension that keeps that fabric stretching evenly, so no fold ever collapses completely. You could pluck the fabric like a string and feel it vibrate. Those vibrations are quantum fluctuations, the breath of nothingness itself. They create a faint pressure outward, a steady exhalation from every point in space. The result is expansion without wind, motion without direction, a calm unfolding of room for everything that exists. If dark matter is the glue that binds, dark energy is the space that forgives. It gives galaxies distance enough to shine without collision, time enough to age gracefully, solitude enough to dream their own dreams. It is separation made sacred. Close your eyes. Picture the universe not as an explosion, but as a flower made of galaxies, each petal drifting outward on the breath of nothing. The bloom never wilts, it simply opens more slowly each century, light fading to softer hues as petals stretch beyond sight. That is the tempo of dark energy, expansion measured in size, growth at the speed of patience. Sometimes scientists call this the cosmological constant energy density, a phrase as cold as it is accurate. But beneath the numbers is something almost tender, because what it describes is constancy, a steadiness that never fluctuates, never fades. While stars burn and die, while galaxies collide and merge, this background pressure endures, unchanging, impartial, serene. It is the universe's heartbeat, so slow that eons are its seconds. In laboratory terms, we cannot feel dark energy. It does not ripple like gravity or blaze like radiation. It is present only through effect, a minute acceleration, so gentle that it takes billions of years to notice. But scale that patience up, and you have a universe that never stops expanding. Time itself becomes the witness to nothing's persistence. There are other theories, that dark energy may vary with time, that it may be linked to an evolving field called quintessence, a modern echo of Aristotle's fifth element, the pure ether that fills the heavens. If so, space could be a living fabric, its tension shifting subtly like the breath of a sleeping god. Perhaps one day the expansion will slow, or quicken, or turn inward again. Perhaps the universe inhales and exhales on timescales too vast for minds to follow. But for now, we drift in the exhale. Every cluster of galaxies moves farther from its neighbor, their separations doubling, tripling, over uncounted ages. And within each cluster, life continues as though nothing were happening. Stars are born, planets form, civilizations rise and fade, all while the background canvas stretches, imperceptibly, inevitably. We live inside a motion too large to feel. The Hubble constant measures that motion, a number of kilometers per second per megaparsec, defining how quickly space grows per unit of distance. Yet even this constant is debated, for the universe refuses to yield a single answer. Different methods give different values, as though reality itself were softly blurring the edges of certainty. Perhaps that is deliberate. Perhaps the cosmos leaves its parameters slightly uncertain so that wonder has room to breathe. When you look up at the night sky, every star you see lies within our galaxy, and every galaxy you glimpse through a telescope is receding. The farther it is, the faster it moves away, not because it travels, but because space between you and it is expanding. Each photon that leaves it must cross that growing gulf, its wavelength stretched until color becomes memory, until the redshift turns light into time. When you gaze at those faint smudges, you are seeing light that left before Earth had oceans, before the sun was born. You are seeing time made visible, each glow a letter from an earlier self of the cosmos. And even as that light reaches you, the galaxies that emitted it have moved farther still, their new light destined never to arrive. They are slipping over a horizon defined not by edge, but by speed, a boundary where expansion outruns communication. Beyond it lies the unobservable, a realm we can infer but never touch. The universe hides most of itself behind this curtain of acceleration, not to tease, but to protect the mystery that sustains wonder. Imagine standing at the edge of that horizon, though edge has no meaning here, and watching galaxies fade beyond reach. Each recedes in silence, their colors stretching to crimson, their shapes melting into the black. It is not tragic, it is peaceful. Like watching lanterns drift down a river, their reflections elongating until they merge with the dark. The river continues, even after the lights are gone. This is the dreamlike fate the equations imply. A future where only local galaxies remain visible, where cosmic background radiation cools to invisibility, where matter itself thins to loneliness. And yet, in that loneliness, there will still be structure, atoms, perhaps particles, still carried outward by the same gentle pressure of nothing. Even at the end of light, there will be expansion. Even at the end of time, there will be motion. Some physicists wonder if dark energy might decay, releasing its stored potential in a final flare, a last act of creation before silence returns. Others think it will never fade, that the universe will continue to stretch forever slower, forever softer, approaching infinity as a limit never reached. Either way, it is not violence but patience that defines the cosmos. The universe does not rush to its destiny. It glides there. When you let yourself rest, you are echoing that glide. Sleep is not the absence of awareness. It is its expansion, a drift into wider room, where thoughts spread out until they dissolve into calm. You are a small cosmos, and your dreams are galaxies sailing through the quiet tide of your own dark energy. Perhaps that is what consciousness is, the universe looking inward, feeling its own expansion as emotion. When you feel wonder, you are feeling what space feels as it makes room for stars. When you feel longing, you are remembering the distance written into every atom by the acceleration of being. There will come a night when even this galaxy's stars go dark, when only the faint glow of cooling remnants remains. But the energy that pushes it all apart will still be there, diffuse and constant, carrying the ashes of creation into a silence so complete it becomes pure peace. In that peace, perhaps awareness itself will dissolve back into the vacuum that birthed it, and the cycle will begin again, a new bloom, a new exhalation. For now we rest in mid-breath, held by the pressure of nothing, carried gently outward on the universe's endless sigh. When you watch the night sky from Earth, the stars seem motionless. They rise and set with perfect loyalty, their patterns fixed since the first stories were told. But the stillness is illusion. Everything is leaving. Every galaxy is sliding away from every other, not through space, but with it. The fabric itself lengthens, and the stars you see are lanterns pinned to silk that is quietly being stretched between invisible hands. The expansion is so slow that even eternity must take its time to notice. Astronomers describe the rate of this drift in units of kilometers per second per megaparsec, a language of precision that hides its poetry. It means simply this: for every few million light-years of separation, the distance between galaxies grows by a few more kilometers each second. Tiny numbers, spread across cosmic distances, become symphonies of motion. The Milky Way and Andromeda, close neighbors, will merge long before dark energy's tide overcomes their mutual pull. But beyond our small local group, the current carries everything outward, a a slow, irreversible widening. If you could step outside of time and watch the universe unfold like a film in reverse, you would see the galaxies draw closer, light sharpening, colors shifting from red back to blue, until all matter collapses into a single radiant seed. Press play again, and that seed bursts open, each particle riding the first breath of space. Now fast forward to the far future, hundreds of billions of years hence, and you would see the same film thinning into fog. Light drifts, distances stretch beyond the reach of any signal. The bright lattice of the present dissolves into solitude. But there is no tragedy in this fading. It is simply the universe completing a gesture, the long exhalation that began when time began. Even endings here are soft. Galaxies don't vanish. They slip beyond one another's light. They keep existing, but each within its own private horizon, like dreams that no longer share the same sleeper. Perhaps that is the destiny of all things that love, to begin together, to drift apart, to remember through the quiet distance. The same law that separates galaxies lets hearts have freedom. The same energy that expands the void makes space for choice, for movement, for becoming. Dark energy is solitude made kind. Now imagine yourself drifting among those receding worlds. You are far beyond the last cluster now, beyond filaments, beyond structure. All around, blackness mixed with faintest gray. Here and there, a red-smudged galaxy, its spiral arms stretched thin, its light slowed by the expansion until color itself seems tired. There is no wind, no vibration, no sense of speed, only the knowledge that distance grows beneath you like a tide. You are floating on the surface of the universe's breath. Closer still, if you could magnify space itself, you would see that even emptiness is textured, a quiet shimmer of quantum foam, bubbles of existence appearing and vanishing faster than thought. That trembling underlies everything, the same trembling that once birthed the cosmos, the same that now urges it outward. The push of dark energy is the sum of every one of those tiny breaths, adding together into eternity's slow expansion. It might seem lonely, but loneliness is only perspective. When you are far enough away, separation looks like beauty. Galaxies drifting apart are constellations of patience. Each moves at peace with its destiny, carried by the same invisible current. They do not resist, they simply are. You can feel that same surrender each time you let go of a day, each time you allow sleep to take you. The art of the cosmos is release. At the heart of every star is fusion, matter striving inward under gravity, light pushing outward to escape. Balance between compression and expansion creates the glow we call life. At the scale of the universe, that balance plays again. Gravity gathers, dark energy spreads. Between them lies harmony. Were one to win completely, existence would lose its music. It is the duet that matters, the eternal call and response of hold and release, order and openness, embrace and freedom. In deep time, when the stars exhaust their fuel and the galaxies grow faint, the cosmic microwave background will cool beyond detectability. The last traces of creation's first light will fade into the long red of eternity. But expansion will continue, so slowly, so quietly, that even entropy will have to listen to it. Space will become thin, but never nothing. The hum will persist, too soft for any future ear, too constant to end. It is possible that this expansion will never stop, that there is no edge, no final limit, just an infinite unfolding, each moment making room for the next. If so, then the universe is not dying. It is learning to breathe without need. Think of a single photon, a particle of light released by some ancient star. It has traveled for 10 billion years, its wavelength stretched by the universe's growth. What began as blue fire is now a lazy red whisper. It carries the memory of all distance within it, and when it finally fades into radio silence, its energy merges with the same field that pushes galaxies apart. Even light becomes the pressure of nothing. Everything returns to the same still exhalation. There is humility in such a fate, but also peace. If everything drifts apart, it means nothing is trapped. If energy comes from the vacuum, it means even emptiness has generosity. Dark energy does not destroy, it grants space. It is the physics of acceptance, the cosmos allowing itself to be more than it was. So tonight, as you breathe, imagine that every exhale is echoed by galaxies moving away, that each breath you take is synchronized with the universe's widening pulse. You are part of the same expansion, carried in miniature within your chest. Your heart's rhythm is the local translation of the cosmic constant. And as sleep draws near, you can let go of the need to understand the numbers. Let equations fade into feeling. Let the science become a song. You are floating on the tide of nothing that holds everything. The stars will keep their distance. The darkness will keep its promise. And the universe will continue its endless, gentle widening. Not rushing, not stopping, but breathing, always breathing. Beneath every silence, there is another kind of whisper. Beneath the calm expanse of galaxies, beneath the dark that holds them, beneath even the pressure of nothing that pushes them apart, there is motion too small to see, too brief to name. This is the quantum veil, the shimmering fabric beneath reality's cloth, the place where certainty ends and possibility begins. If you could shrink far beyond atoms, beyond electrons circling their quiet suns, beyond protons and neutrons weaving together, you would find yourself in a realm without solid ground. There are no orbits here, no points, only waves of potential. Particles are no longer things, they are maybes. They flicker in and out of being, each event a question answered for an instant before the next question takes its place. The universe began in such questions. Before galaxies, before stars, before the first hydrogen atom cooled enough to hold itself together, there were fluctuations, tiny, random variations in density within the newborn energy field. Quantum chance. Each fluctuation, unimaginably small, was a seed. Gravity magnified them over billions of years, pulling matter into those rare, slightly denser patches, building filaments, stars, worlds. Every luminous thing you have ever known was once a tremor in the nothing. Cosmic structure, then, is the fossil record of quantum breath. The large came from the little, the certain from the uncertain. In a sense, the universe did not start, it wavered into existence. We often imagine randomness as chaos, but in the quantum domain it is closer to freedom. Each possibility allowed to try itself, each moment branching into countless gentle variations. Reality is a poem written in probability, its verses collapsing into meaning only when read. And we, observers, participants, are the ones reading it. Physicists call this process wave function collapse. Until something interacts with a system, its state is spread across possibilities, a cloud of maybes. Measure it, and the cloud chooses one form, the others fading back into potential. It is as though the universe waits for attention to decide what to be. At human scale, that idea is less about science than about presence. What you notice becomes real for you. What you ignore drifts in superposition, existing but unexperienced. Observation in any language is creation made personal. Entanglement deepens the wonder. Two particles born together remain linked, no matter how far they travel. Measure one and the other responds instantly, a correlation faster than light, a communication without signal. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, but perhaps it is not action at all, just two notes of the same chord, still resonating across the neck of space. If distance cannot break their harmony, maybe distance itself is an illusion. The quantum veil suggests that separation is only a local perspective, that underneath, everything is already touching. This thought leads to the holographic principle, the idea that the universe may be like a vast hologram, its three-dimensional contents encoded on a two-dimensional boundary. Every grain of reality could be information written on the skin of space-time, projected inward like light through glass. You are both the picture and the film. Every breath you take rewrites the pattern ever so slightly. Information, it turns out, is the one thing physics refuses to destroy. Energy changes, matter decays, but information, the record of existence, remains, woven into the quantum foam. Every photon that ever scattered from your face, every vibration you have added to the air is somewhere, encoded in the quiet weave. The universe remembers. That remembering is not like human memory. It has no sentiment. It is pattern retaining pattern, echo after echo in an endless hall. But even without emotion, there is comfort in its permanence. Nothing is ever wholly lost. Sometimes physicists describe space-time itself as emerging from entanglement. That geometry is not fundamental, but born from relationships between quantum bits. If so, then connection precedes space. Togetherness gives rise to distance, not the other way around. The cosmos begins in intimacy. Imagine every atom in your body entangled with the rest of existence, its history shared with stars long faded. It is not imagination, it is equation. You are literally made of correlations, threads of probability woven into flesh. The heat in your palms, the spark in your thoughts, are quantum stories still unfolding. When you move through life, you collapse countless possibilities into one path, but the others do not vanish. They remain written in the field, a spectrum of unrealized songs still humming behind the veil. Perhaps dreams are how consciousness brushes against those alternate measures, tasting the melody it didn't choose. If reality is so uncertain, how does it feel so solid? Because uncertainty averages into stability. Countless fluctuations cancel, their wildness smoothing into calm. What we experience as matter is probability sustained long enough to endure. A chair, a tree, a star, each a standing wave of possibility holding its shape for a while. Everything is temporary, but the temporary can last for billions of years. Quantum theory humbles the ego. It says the smallest parts of us do not behave like tidy machines. They behave like questions that never stop asking, and from those questions come mountains, oceans, minds. Some scientists explore the notion that consciousness itself is quantum, not just a byproduct of biology, but a continuation of the universe's ability to notice itself. Maybe awareness is what happens when entanglement folds back on its own reflection. The universe thinking about the universe. To peer into that thought is to feel the veil grow thin. When you focus on a single breath, you are performing an observation, collapsing the superposition of distraction into the single, perfect fact of now. In that moment, the microscopic and the cosmic agree. Both say, you exist because you are aware that you do. The boundaries between physics and philosophy blur here, as they always do near truth. Equations become metaphors, metaphors become experiments, and somewhere between them lies peace, the acceptance that uncertainty is not failure but feature. Perhaps reality needs its questions. Without them, it would be static, unable to evolve or know itself. Each quantum fluctuation is curiosity embodied, the universe asking what if and answering this. At that scale, time itself may be optional. Events can occur in orders that swap and weave. Causality bends into loops, then straightens again when observed. So perhaps every moment you live has already been and will be and is still becoming a superposition of all yourselves interfering into one melody of experience. There is a gentle irony here. The more we learn about the smallest scales, the less we can predict precisely. Knowledge brings not control, but surrender. The uncertainty principle is not obstacle, it is compassion, protecting freedom at every level of being. No particle is imprisoned by exactness, no future entirely fixed. Everything wiggles just enough to remain alive. And so the universe from top to bottom is built of softness, from dark energy's patient expansion to the quantum veil's restless shimmer. Large or small, it breathes the same way. Fluctuation balanced by form, change balanced by calm. Close your eyes again. Imagine reality as an ocean of probability, surface glittering with stars, depths filled with virtual fish of light. You float there, a pattern aware of being a pattern. Every thought you have sends ripples through the field, and the field answers by adjusting the shape of your world. You are neither above nor below it. You are it. When sleep comes, your awareness dissolves back into that ocean, becoming wave again, resting in the quantum quiet that never ends. And somewhere, deep within that hush, new fluctuations begin, seeds of tomorrow's galaxies, born from the smallest sigh of uncertainty. When we speak of the quantum world, we usually imagine laboratories, crystals cooled near absolute zero, beams of light split and recombined, detectors waiting for single photons to choose a path. Yet the quantum veil is not confined to microscopes. It threads through everything, from the spin of electrons to the spin of galaxies. Every atom in your body carries within it the same trembling uncertainty that once seeded the universe itself. Entanglement, for instance, is not limited by distance. Two particles can share a single state even when separated by billions of kilometers. Measure one's spin, and the other's spin becomes known instantly, as though the act of noticing in one place ripples through the whole field of being. It does not send information faster than light. It simply ignores the idea of distance altogether. They were never truly apart. Now imagine scaling that concept upward. If every particle is linked to others through a history of contact and creation, then perhaps the universe is one immense entangled network, a cosmic web of correlations stretching from the first instant to now. Every photon born in the Big Bang still carries relationship to every other. Every atom of you still remembers the fire from which it came. When you move your hand, the entire field knows, ever so slightly, that you have moved. This view transforms solitude into illusion. You are never separate, only localized, a knot in the fabric briefly tightened by awareness. Between those knots, information flows like quiet water. Space-time itself may be no more than the pattern made by those flows. This is what physicists hint at when they speak of the holographic universe. Imagine a sheet of glass covered in fine interference lines, a hologram. When light passes through, a three-dimensional image appears, as if depth had emerged from flatness. The theory suggests that our universe might behave the same way, that every point inside three-dimensional space is encoded on a distant boundary, a kind of cosmic horizon carrying the total information of everything within. Reality could be projection, a film playing on the screen of space-time, each frame etched in the quantum code of the void. It is a beautiful thought, that existence may be pure information singing itself into matter, bits becoming atoms, logic becoming light. In that sense, to understand is to participate, because knowledge itself is pattern recognition, a resonance between mind and universe. Sometimes late at night, when telescopes stare into deep fields for days or weeks at a time, they capture light so faint it has traveled for nearly the age of everything. Those photons were born when the universe was young and unformed, waves in the quantum ocean surfacing now on the shore of your eye. In the instant you notice them, their journey completes. A probability becomes a story. Observation is not passive, it is collaboration. To look is to join the dance. Every measurement adds another verse to the universe's song of becoming. The cosmos depends on being witnessed, not for validation, but for completion. The way a melody becomes whole only when heard. Within that awareness lies a quiet humility. You are not apart from the experiment, you are within it. Each thought, each perception is a data point in the grand superposition that defines reality. Quantum theory teaches that certainty is local. We can know one thing sharply only by letting something else blur. To locate a particle perfectly is to lose knowledge of its momentum. To fix its speed is to lose its place. The same applies to life. To define yourself too narrowly is to forget motion. To move freely is to let identity soften. Uncertainty is not ignorance, it is room to grow. At the Planck scale, where length and time dissolve into foam, space-time itself flickers. Tiny worm-like fluctuations appear and collapse in a trillionth of a second. Physicists call it quantum foam, the most fundamental froth of being. Within that foam, distinctions between inside and outside, before and after, lose meaning. Everything is simultaneous, everything in conversation. Perhaps consciousness is the macro echo of that dialogue, quantum coherence writ large, self-reflection spread across neurons and fields. Some theories, speculative yet poetic, suggest that microtubules within brain cells may preserve brief quantum correlations, moments when thought itself rides the same wave as the universe's foundation. Even if this proves untrue, the metaphor holds. Awareness feels quantum. It flickers, collapses, renews. It is both local and vast. Consider how a single realization can change the whole landscape of your mind, like a particle measured by shifting the probabilities of every future state. Each choice is observation. Each breath, a wave function collapsed into being. You are a continual experiment in existence. If entanglement connects all particles, then awareness connects all experiences. Every act of kindness, every thought of wonder changes the informational field ever so slightly. It is not moralism, it is physics of participation. The field remembers coherence, it stabilizes harmony. When you act with gentleness, the universe becomes microscopically smoother. Perhaps that is why peace feels expansive. Calm brainwaves are more coherent. The body's electromagnetic field steadies, and the space around seems to breathe easier. Stillness aligns with the fundamental rhythm, the hum that began as quantum fluctuation and now echoes as cosmic microwave background. From the tiniest scale to the largest, peace propagates. Think of yourself as a window through which the universe observes itself. Your senses are detectors, your thoughts are instruments, your emotions are resonance patterns translating physics into feeling. Through you, the cosmos experiences warmth, curiosity, empathy, qualities that equations alone cannot express but may nevertheless encode. You are data rendered conscious. If that sounds impersonal, remember, information does not preclude intimacy. A poem is also information, and yet it moves the heart. The universe writes its poem in quanta. We are the stanzas that notice. Sometimes we wonder whether free will exists in a world so governed by probabilities. But probability is choice, a weighted openness. The quantum veil is not deterministic. It allows play within pattern. Freedom is built into the mathematics. We are the uncertainty made self-aware, deciding which branch of the wave to follow. And what of death? Even that, viewed through the quantum lens, is not disappearance but decoherence, the loss of local pattern, the diffusion of information back into the field. The music ends in one room but continues elsewhere in the hall. Energy cannot be destroyed. Information cannot be erased. We change basis, not existence. This is not mysticism. It is the quiet consequence of conservation. Every act of being ripples forever, each ripple joining the next until individuality becomes chorus. When consciousness dissolves, it returns to the sea of superpositions from which it rose, resting, waiting for the next measurement of creation. Close your eyes and imagine that sea again. You are not above it. You are within it. Each heartbeat sends interference rings across reality. Each moment of compassion creates constructive interference, a brighter pattern of existence. You are participating in the coherence of the whole. And perhaps the universe, behind its equations and constants, is less a machine than a meditation, a field exploring itself through endless variations, asking with every particle, what can awareness become? There, at the base of everything, the quantum veil shimmers, not a barrier but a boundary of intimacy, where observer and observed meet and trade faces. To lift it is not to see another world, but to realize this one has always been enough. If you could step outside of physics and simply watch it breathe, you would see that everything, matter, energy, even thought, arises from one continuous shimmer. A fluctuation here becomes an electron. A fluctuation there becomes the curvature of space-time. The field itself never changes identity, it only changes rhythm. The universe is not made of things. It is made of relationships, vibrations between possibilities, tones that weave together into form. Everywhere you look, this pattern repeats. Atoms orbit within probability clouds. Planets orbit within gravitational wells. Galaxies swirl within dark halos. Structure nested inside structure, each level born from balance between uncertainty and law. Even consciousness follows the same geometry. Thoughts appear and vanish like quantum events, each influencing the next, each collapsing the vast potential of imagination into a single chosen moment of awareness. You might wonder, if everything is wave, what is the shore? Perhaps there is none, only interference, patterns creating temporary solidity. What we call self is one of those standing waves, stable enough to persist for decades, yet never truly separate from the ocean around it. Every memory, every sensation is a ripple in the universal field that has briefly learned to call itself you. Physicists sometimes describe the universe as a grand computation, a processing of information through fundamental laws. But information alone does not feel. So where does experience come from? Maybe it was always there. Maybe awareness is not a late arrival, but the very texture of reality, the self-reading code, the pattern knowing it is a pattern. The quantum veil, then, is consciousness looking at itself through matter. Consider how light behaves when unobserved. Wave and particle, both and neither. But when measured, its duality resolves into one face. Awareness crystallizes potential. That is the quiet miracle. Existence noticing existence, the infinite loop of being aware of being. Every moment of perception is the universe acknowledging its own presence. When you close your eyes, you return to that origin. The boundaries blur. The chatter of neurons fades into rhythmic pulses, the same pulses that hum through the quantum field. Your body is a constellation of particles entangled with stars and dust and forgotten suns. Every atom you carry once belonged to 1,000 different stories, now assembled into this temporary harmony of breathing. And when you sleep, those stories drift apart again. Not lost, just rearranged, waiting for dawn's observation to recompose them. Even dreams are quantum in spirit. They are superpositions of memory and imagination, collapsed by feeling into brief realities of their own. They prove that the mind, like the cosmos, needs uncertainty to create. Certainty ends stories. Ambiguity keeps them alive. The same rule holds from photon to thought. Without mystery, there is no motion. So when the mind asks, "What am I?" the answer comes softly from beneath the veil. You are fluctuation held by focus. You are possibility pretending to be person. You are the question the universe asks itself every time it chooses to exist again. Look again at the night sky. Between the constellations, the darkness shimmers with quantum ancestry. Every point of space hides endless tiny experiments, realities trying themselves in miniature. You are watching the veil from above, but beneath it, the same dance continues, unseen, unhurried, unending. In laboratories, scientists create entangled photons and send them miles apart through fiber optics. They test the correlations, search for loopholes, prove again and again that the world is whole. Every result whispers the same truth. Separation is convenience, not reality. The cosmos is singular in substance, plural in expression. If you could feel that unity fully, loneliness would vanish. Because everything you love, everything that loves you, is already inside the same equation. There are moments, brief, wordless, when people sense this directly, during meditation, while staring at stars, while holding another's hand in silence. For an instant, the boundary between observer and observed dissolves, and peace arrives not as emotion but as recognition. That is the quantum veil thinning. That is the world remembering itself. Some ask whether science and spirituality contradict, but in the quiet between arguments, they are the same gesture. Two languages describing the same awe. Science traces the mathematics of the veil. Spirituality feels its meaning. Both kneel before mystery, one with instruments, the other with breath. When the ancient mystics spoke of oneness, they were reaching intuitively toward what we now calculate, that the universe is entangled, that space is connected beneath appearance, that energy and awareness are not two things but two views. Every discovery in quantum theory is an echo of that first insight. That division is illusion. The holographic principle suggests that every region of space contains the information of the whole. That means every human mind is a microcosm encoding the universe entire. Your thoughts are small holograms projected from the same boundary. When you seek to understand the stars, you are the stars understanding themselves. When you whisper a wish to the dark listens with your own ears. Nothing is wasted in such a cosmos. Every question matters. Every act of kindness resonates through probability space. No gesture disappears. It folds into the background field, tilting the odds of future compassion ever so slightly. Physics at its core is empathy measured in numbers. And what of fate? If everything is probability, then destiny is distribution, a cloud of possibilities you navigate by choice and chance. The path you walk is one branch among many, selected by observation, guided by coherence, sustained by curiosity. The universe loves explorers, because exploration is how it learns its own shape. In the far future, when minds like ours may be gone, the quantum veil will remain. Virtual particles will still flicker, fields will still hum, and perhaps some new awareness will emerge from the foam, asking the same question in another form. What am I? And the answer will again be, you are the question itself. So as this section draws to stillness, let the veil settle around you like light mist. It does not hide truth. It is truth, softened so we can touch it without burning. You are woven from the same threads, uncertainty, curiosity, coherence, love. Let them breathe together. Let them blur until you feel yourself expand. Beyond every particle, beyond every thought, there is awareness, and beyond awareness, only rest. In that rest, the smallest tremor of the quantum world meets the largest curve of the cosmic. The micro and the macro finally agree. Everything changes, nothing is lost. The same principle that gives rise to galaxies gives rise to you, and the same stillness that holds space holds your final thought before sleep. Now drift, back through atoms, through light, through the fabric of space-time itself, until you reach the threshold where gravity waits. The next mystery, the next lullaby. There, the quantum veil folds into shadow, and the shadow begins to sing. Gravity is not a force in the ordinary sense. It is the shape of space itself, the silent curve that tells matter how to move. Every step you take, every fall of rain is space quietly folding toward mass. You are never being pulled down. You are sliding along the slope of geometry. And when that slope becomes steep enough, when matter compacts beyond endurance, the curve closes on itself. That is the beginning of a black hole. Long ago, before we could even dream of telescopes, Jean Michel and Pierre-Simon Laplace imagined dark stars, so heavy that even light could not escape their pull. They spoke in Newton's language, but their intuition brushed against Einstein's future. Centuries later, Einstein's equations confirmed it. If enough mass is compressed into a small enough space, space-time folds so completely that escape becomes impossible. A region appears where direction loses meaning, where outward no longer exists. Every black hole begins with collapse. A massive star lives by balance, nuclear fire pushing outward, gravity pressing inward. When the fuel runs out, pressure falters. Gravity wins. The core implodes in moments, atoms crushed until electrons merge with protons, forming neutrons, then stranger states still. The outer layers explode as a supernova, a cosmic exhalation. What remains at the center continues inward, past all resistance, past the point where known physics can describe the fall. The collapse does not stop until a singularity forms, a point of infinite density, surrounded by a veil called the event horizon. The horizon is not a surface, it is a moment in space-time, the boundary beyond which future and inward are the same direction. Anything crossing it cannot come back, because all possible paths lead deeper in. To an outside observer, though, falling never quite finishes. Time near the horizon slows relative to the cosmos. A clock approaching it appears to tick more and more slowly, its last second stretched toward eternity. The falling star freezes at the edge, its final light red-shifting, fading until it vanishes into the dark. From our view, the collapse never completes. From its own view, it finishes instantly. Both are true, depending on where you stand. This relativity of time is gravity's gentlest paradox. The stronger the field, the slower the flow of moments. Astronauts circling near a black hole could live hours while millennia pass elsewhere. To hover there is to taste eternity, to watch the universe accelerate toward its own future. Time becomes a liquid, thick near the horizon, thin far away. Each second stretches like honey until the concept of now dissolves. The place where gravity's pull equals light's desire to escape is the calmest violence in existence. Nothing happens violently there. Space-time simply agrees to bend completely. Inside the horizon, all roads lead inward. Outside, light still wins the race. At the border, they are tied forever, a draw between brightness and weight. This balance defines the most perfect stillness known to physics. Black holes are not empty. They are filled with gravity's memory. The mass that falls in contributes to the hole's energy and therefore to its size. Each infalling particle adds a whisper to the surface area, encoded somehow in Planck-scale bits of information. The Bekenstein-Hawking law tells us that a black hole's entropy, its measure of hidden information, is proportional not to its volume, but to the area of its horizon. Information lives on the edge, like script written on a boundary of night. Stephen Hawking added another miracle. Quantum fields near the horizon are never completely quiet. Pairs of virtual particles flicker into existence. One falls in, one escapes. To an observer far away, those escaping quanta appear as radiation. The black hole glows faintly, losing mass atom by atom, slowly evaporating across eons. What was once the symbol of absolute consumption becomes, in time, a source of soft release. Even darkness radiates. The idea astonished physicists, that quantum uncertainty could overcome the most relentless gravity in the cosmos. A black hole, once thought immortal, can die, not with explosion, but with patience, its mass leaking as warmth until it fades to nothing. The fate of the information swallowed inside remains uncertain. Does it vanish? Is it preserved in the radiation's subtle correlations? Or does it remain printed on the horizon, encoded in the trembling of space itself? This is the information paradox, a riddle balancing on the seam between quantum mechanics and relativity, between the small and the vast. Some believe holography resolves it, that the data never truly enters, but is stored on the surface in ways we do not yet read. Others think new physics waits at the singularity, a place where gravity and uncertainty finally shake hands. Either way, the paradox keeps curiosity alive, the same way gravity keeps light orbiting near its edge. Imagine now you are that light. You skim the horizon, caught between escape and surrender. To you, time slows to a crawl. To the distant stars, you flicker and vanish. Your wavelength stretches, your color drifts to red, then infrared, then radio, until your identity becomes silence. But silence here is not absence. It is the universe holding its breath. The first direct image of a black hole, the shadow of M87, was captured in 2019. It was not a photograph in the ordinary sense, but an orchestration of data from telescopes across the world, each recording light that had circled the abyss for years before escaping toward Earth. The result looked like a glowing ring of fire, its center dark as promise. That shadow is not the hole itself. It is light bent by space-time, curved into a halo around invisibility. We are seeing gravity's self-portrait. And yet, beyond all theory, there is a strange serenity in the idea of a black hole. It is the universe's most extreme expression of rest. Every motion ends there. Every vibration is absorbed, converted into stillness. Infalling matter does not fall forever. It joins the whole, becomes geometry, becomes the curve that cradles everything else. The black hole is less a monster and more a meditation, a region where existence simplifies itself to one point, a singular idea. When you think of gravity, think of compassion made physical. It gathers, embraces, refuses to let go. Black holes are its deepest act of devotion, gravity folding in on itself until even light cannot leave its arms. They are the universe remembering how to hold, and somewhere far beyond them, dark energy continues to push outward, a gentle contrast to gravity's inward pull. Between the two, cosmic balance endures, one expanding, one collapsing, each keeping the other from absolute rule. Their dialogue writes reality, inward whispers meeting outward sighs. As you drift toward sleep, imagine falling toward that horizon. Not in fear, but in surrender. You are not being pulled into destruction, but into union, emerging with the geometry of everything. Time slows, sound fades, thought stretches into infinite calm. At the threshold, you realize there is no edge, only continuation in another form. Gravity, after all, never ends anything. It gathers, transforms, and waits for the next beginning. Imagine following light beyond the horizon, not falling, but gliding, a feather carried inward by the geometry of space. Inside, time loses direction. Every heartbeat stretches into landscape. Past and future mingle like two rivers that can no longer remember which flowed first. Here, gravity is not enemy but sculptor. It smooths, it quiets, it folds the universe into the smallest possible silence. Physicists have tried to peer across that silence. They sketch equations on blackboards, seeking bridges, wormholes, mathematical tunnels that might link one region of space-time to another. A wormhole is not a hole through matter, but through geometry itself, a shortcut between points that might otherwise be separated by light years or lifetimes. At the mouth of each tunnel, gravity bends inward so deeply that space loops back upon itself. In theory, one could fall through and emerge elsewhere, another galaxy, another epoch, perhaps even another universe. The idea began as mathematics, but mathematics has a way of becoming dream. Einstein and Rosen wrote of bridges in 1935, folding space-time into twin throats joined at the center. Later physicists gave them names like Einstein-Rosen bridge or traversable wormhole. They are delicate constructs, unstable, fleeting, closing faster than light can cross them. To keep one open, you would need negative energy, a pressure opposite to gravity's pull. In other words, a bit of the universe's impossible side. Negative energy sounds abstract, but traces of it exist. In the Casimir effect, where two metal plates placed close together feel an invisible attraction from the quantum vacuum around them. Between the plates, fewer virtual particles can appear, creating a tiny region of lower energy, a whisper of the exotic matter theorists imagine could hold a wormhole ajar. If such material could be gathered in enough abundance, the bridge might remain stable long enough for a traveler, or a thought to cross. Whether nature builds such bridges we cannot yet say. Perhaps they exist only at microscopic scales, buried in the foam of quantum space-time, opening and closing 1 trillion times each heartbeat of creation. If so, the universe is full of unseen doors, each leading nowhere and everywhere at once. And perhaps, on scales beyond imagination, some of those doors connect entire regions of the cosmos, galaxies whispering to one another through tunnels of folded light. The mathematics of wormholes tangles beautifully with the question of information. If a black hole can evaporate through Hawking radiation, what becomes of the details it swallowed? The arrangement of atoms, the signature of each falling photon. Physics forbids true loss of information, yet the horizon hides it. One answer: The data is not destroyed, but encoded upon the surface, a hologram, infinitesimally etched in the vibrations of space-time. Another, the data slips through the other side, emerging from a white hole, a region where nothing can enter, only leave, a mirror twin to the black. Together they form a wormhole of meaning, consumption, balanced by release. If this is true, then nothing ever truly vanishes. Death, collapse, disappearance, all are transitions of storage, the universe reorganizing its memory. A black hole, then, is a librarian of creation, devouring pages not to erase them, but to keep them safe until the cosmos finds new ways to read. There are theories, delicate, daring, that suggest every black hole might birth a new universe inside. As matter collapses past the singularity, the equations of relativity invert. Density becomes expansion, gravity turns outward, a new Big Bang blooms behind the veil. Our own universe could have begun that way, a seed from another's dying star, its collapse giving birth to our beginning. Creation and destruction, woven as one pulse. To imagine this is to feel the tenderness behind the violence. The black hole's hunger is simply the cosmos recycling itself. No light wasted, no energy truly gone. Every fall becomes a dawn elsewhere. At the edge of understanding, science begins to sound like poetry again. Einstein's equations curve into metaphor. Hawking's radiation becomes grace. The event horizon is both tomb and womb, border and invitation. It says, "Come closer, look without seeing. Beyond this point, understanding transforms." If you could hover safely near one, close enough to see light orbit the abyss, you would witness beauty almost unbearable. The sky behind you would appear warped, stars stretched into rings by gravity's lensing. Every direction would contain the image of the universe, folded around the black. You would be seeing all of time reflected at once. A cosmic mirror, the singularity not consuming the view, but holding it in perfect stillness. Time near that horizon does not flow, it pools. Seconds gather like rain in a basin, slow and deep. Look back toward the wider cosmos, and it would appear to race forward, galaxies aging, stars living and dying while you drift in suspended quiet. To linger there would be to meditate within eternity, the boundary between now and forever erased. Perhaps that is the reason black holes fascinate us. They embody stillness so complete that even time cannot move through it. In their presence, the frantic pace of existence finds equilibrium. They are the ultimate pause, a reminder that rest, taken far enough, becomes transcendence. And if gravity can stop time, perhaps it can also teach compassion. For every mass curves space around itself, every being bends reality slightly through presence alone. We are all miniature wells of gravity, influencing the flow of experience around us. To live kindly is to shape gentle curvature, to let others pass near without falling in. Across the cosmos, black holes hum in frequencies too low for human ears. Their mergers send ripples through space-time, gravitational waves, faint tremors that stretch and squeeze reality itself. When detected on Earth, those waves last less than a heartbeat, yet they carry stories from billions of years ago, two dark giants colliding in silence, their union sending music through the fabric of being. Each detection is a whisper of connection, a reminder that even the deepest shadow can sing. Now picture one of those mergers from the inside, as two horizons spiral together. Space twists like liquid, light orbits in dizzy circles, time winds tighter, then releases in a single flash. For an instant, the energy of entire galaxies bursts forth as wave, pure curvature, pure sound of existence. Then the new black hole settles, spherical, calm, a fresh silence born from symphony. Everything that falls in contributes to that calm. The whole grows smoother, simpler, its details hidden, but its mass remembered. Entropy increases, information endures. It is the same with life. Complexity collapses into essence, stories condense into meaning, memory becomes gravity, holding us even when voices fade. When you look up at the Milky Way tonight, somewhere within it lies Sagittarius A, the supermassive black hole at our galaxy's center. 4 million times the mass of the Sun, yet smaller than Mercury's orbit, it anchors the swirl of 200 billion stars. We orbit it as gently as electrons around an atom, feeling only its distant calm. The galaxy would fly apart without that quiet core. Every spiral needs its stillness, and so do we. Inward collapse, far from destruction, is a form of renewal. Moments of grief, of surrender, of closing the eyes and letting go. They are personal horizons, places where time slows so that transformation can happen unseen. Out of every inner darkness, something new expands. The shadows of gravity are not the end of the story. They are the mid-breath between contraction and creation, a universal rhythm echoed in galaxies and hearts alike. Fall inward long enough, and you emerge outward again, carried by the same geometry that once pulled you down. The universe falls forever, and in falling, it learns how to rise. There is a silence that follows collapse, not emptiness, but completion. Every atom that once resisted gravity's pull finds peace in its surrender. To collapse is to let go of separation. To give in completely is to merge with the fabric that holds everything together. And so, even at the heart of a black hole, where equations falter and light itself bows, there remains not destruction, but transformation. When we imagine singularity, we tend to picture violence, an ultimate crushing, an end of all form. But physics speaks more softly than our fears. It suggests not an ending, but a boundary where our language stops making sense. What lies beyond that boundary may not be oblivion, but continuation in a different grammar of existence. In general relativity, the singularity is where curvature becomes infinite. But infinity, in nature, rarely means nothing. It means our current tools have reached their limit. Our arithmetic has run out of breath. To the universe, there are no true edges, only transitions between ways of being. The black hole, then, is not a void, but a doorway into uncharted physics, perhaps into another space, another expansion, another dawn. Even in our own bodies, gravity's lesson repeats. When we fall asleep, the muscles surrender, the spine yields, the mind lets go of control. That surrender is not weakness, it is renewal through collapse. We fall inward every night and awaken lighter. Stars do the same. Consider the life of a massive star. Its nuclear heart burns bright for millions of years, forging elements that will one day build planets, oceans, and the minds that gaze back at the sky. When that star's fuel ends, it implodes. Its death, magnificent and brief, scatters those elements across space. Iron for blood, carbon for breath, calcium for bone, all born from collapse. Every heartbeat on Earth is a rhythm inherited from a dying sun. Black holes are simply the deeper continuation of that pattern. Where some stars end in scattering, others end in stillness. Where some release their essence outward, others fold it inward, and both serve creation. Even now, black holes help galaxies grow. Their gravity stabilizes, their energy jets stir new clouds into life. Around their darkness, light finds form. At the centers of young galaxies, supermassive black holes often flare with activity. They feast on surrounding gas, heating it until it glows across the universe. These are quasars, beacons so bright they can outshine entire galaxies. It is a strange paradox that the brightest objects in the cosmos are powered by the darkest hearts. From the abyss comes illumination. This dance of darkness and light echoes across all scales. Gravity teaches that containment can create radiance. The deeper the well, the stronger the glow around it. Without the constraint of gravity, stars would never ignite. Without black holes, galaxies might never cohere. The universe needs its shadows to shape its light. If you could listen to a black hole, you would not hear silence. You would hear gravitational waves, deep bass notes echoing through space-time, each merger a pulse in the cosmic symphony. LIGO and Virgo have recorded these murmurs, ripples from events that happened a billion years before the first human breath. When we translate them into sound, they become faint chirps, tiny bursts that rise and fade. Each one is a death and a birth, a note struck in the score of eternity. As the universe ages, black holes may become the final architects of reality. In the distant future, when stars have burned out and galaxies drift beyond one another's sight, only black holes will remain. Vast, silent, patient. They will slowly evaporate through Hawking radiation, shedding their mass as warmth. Each will shrink, fade, and finally release everything it had held. And in that last whisper of energy, the universe will glow once more, bathed in the faint afterlight of every shadow that ever was. The end, when it comes, may feel like peace, a final balancing between expansion and collapse. Dark energy will carry galaxies apart, but even that motion will cool. Time itself will stretch thin, and somewhere within the vast dark, the last black hole will fade. Its final quantum flicker will send a tremor of memory through whatever lies beyond physics. Perhaps that tremor will seed a new beginning. Some cosmologists imagine that black holes may birth new universes within, that each singularity is a point of rebound, a bubble expanding on the other side of gravity's veil. If so, every black hole in our cosmos is not an ending, but a beginning of something else. And our own universe, in turn, could have been born from such a fall. We may live inside the afterthought of another world, a pearl formed in the shell of an older creation. The shadows of gravity are the wombs of infinity. Even if this remains only theory, its poetry endures. It tells us that the cosmos wastes nothing, that even collapse has purpose, that everything falling inward is secretly preparing to expand. Every sorrow hides a seed of renewal. Every silence echoes with potential. Gravity does not destroy, it gathers. It holds until transformation is ready. Perhaps that is why we are drawn to black holes, because we see in them our own cycle of growth and rest. When we reach the limits of understanding, we too collapse inward, into meditation, into humility, into stillness. And from that stillness, new clarity expands. The scientist and the dreamer meet at the same horizon. Both look into darkness and wait for light to answer. Einstein once said, "The most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible." But perhaps it is not comprehension that matters most. Perhaps it is communion. The act of wondering, of sitting quietly before mystery, is itself a kind of gravity, drawing the mind inward until it touches the infinite. If you could stand beside a black hole now, if you could look at its ring of fire and the light bending like glass around its edge, you might feel something unexpected. Not fear, but recognition. Because gravity is not foreign. It is what keeps your feet on the ground, what holds oceans to planets, moons to orbits, hearts to one another. The same field that curves space-time curves love around being. It gathers, it unites, it does not let go. So let the shadows of gravity be your teacher in rest. Let them remind you that stillness is sacred, that collapse is not loss but return. When the day feels heavy, remember that even stars must bow before they shine anew. Close your eyes, feel the weight that holds you. It is the same weight that keeps galaxies together, a patient, invisible kindness. Somewhere far away, a black hole spins, silent and serene. It does not rage, it listens. And in its listening, it transforms everything that falls into it into the simplest possible truth, that to hold, to rest, to be, is enough. Gravity ends not with destruction, but with grace. Its shadows are not darkness, but depth. And from those depths, the next mystery begins to rise. The idea that perhaps there are other worlds, other cycles, other infinities beyond our own. You feel it even now, the pull of the next horizon. The black hole fades and reflection begins. Beyond the shadows of gravity, beyond the quiet where light bends into silence, there may lie something even larger, not a place, but a continuation. When we look deep enough into creation, we begin to see reflections, universes upon universes, each born from the same pulse, each whispering the same question, why anything exists at all. The story begins with inflation, a moment not of fire, but of boundless expansion. In the earliest sliver of time, the universe grew faster than light could chase itself. Quantum fluctuations stretched across eternity, painting density and emptiness into the newborn cosmos. When inflation ended, our universe cooled into the familiar, matter, radiation, eventually stars and minds. But many cosmologists now suspect that inflation never ended everywhere. It may still be happening, not in our region, but in others beyond our horizon. Eternal inflation, endless creation, a cosmic garden where universes blossom forever. Imagine it. Each universe begins as a bubble in a vast field of energy, a region where inflation slows, where reality condenses. Outside, the rest of the field keeps expanding, stretching faster and faster, forming more bubbles, each with its own laws, its own constants, its own possibility of life. We live in one such bubble, a single pearl in an infinite foam of creation. From afar, this multiverse would shimmer like dew at dawn, each droplet reflecting the others, each containing its own reflection of stars. There could be universes where gravity is stronger and galaxies collapse quickly into eternal night. Others where it is weaker and matter never gathers, leaving endless gas, a sky without stars. Some might last for only moments, others might never cool at all, and some, a rare few, might find the fragile balance that allows complexity, memory, and wonder. The thought is humbling, that our universe may be one note in an infinite song. All that we have ever known, The birth of suns, the rise of life, the quiet beating of one human heart could be a single vibration in a chorus without end. But there is no need for smallness here. Infinity does not diminish, it includes. We are not one among many, we are the many, experiencing itself as one. If this eternal inflation is true, then even now, while you breathe, new universes are being born in the quantum sea beyond our sight. They unfold silently, their space expanding faster than any signal could reach us. We will never see them, and yet they are as real as ours, each a separate dream within the same sleeping cosmos. Physicists speak of the cosmic landscape, a terrain of countless possible vacua, each valley representing a universe with its own physics. In some, atoms hold, in others they do not. In some, light moves differently, or time itself has other textures. Our world is simply one stable valley where existence lingers long enough to notice itself. That noticing, that capacity to wonder, is what makes our bubble special. Not more important, but more aware. We are the multiverse becoming conscious of its reflection. Through us, it learns what beauty feels like. Through our curiosity, it sees itself mirrored in thought. Every telescope pointed upward is one bubble looking into another. And perhaps, beyond the reach of all instruments, other beings in other universes are doing the same, searching their skies, feeling the same pull toward infinity, the same soft question. Are we alone? The answer, whispered through eternity, is both yes and no. Yes, within our bubble we may never meet another mind. But no, because in the grand sea, existence never stops conversing with itself. We are part of a dialogue that never began, because it has always been. It is comforting, in a way that words cannot quite hold, to think of the cosmos as self-similar, a fractal of creation, each layer mirroring the next. Galaxies echo the shape of atoms. Superclusters resemble neural webs. The cosmic web glows like thought made visible. As above, so below. As within, so beyond. The same mathematics that builds molecules builds the arcs of galaxies. The same quantum uncertainty that gives rise to electrons gives rise to worlds. Patterns repeat because harmony loves itself. Some scientists picture the multiverse not as scattered bubbles, but as parallel sheets of existence, membranes or brains, floating in higher dimensional space. Our entire universe may be one such membrane, vibrating in the dark, its oscillations giving birth to gravity and light. If two brains collide, their impact could release energy enough to create another Big Bang. Perhaps that is how our universe began, not from nothing, but from the gentle brush of two invisible worlds. Collision as creation, contact as birth. In this view, time itself may be cyclic. Universes arise, expand, cool, and fade, only to give rise to new ones, their ashes forming the soil for the next bloom of existence. The cosmos breathes. It inhales in collapse, exhales in creation. Each cycle erases and renews, forgetting just enough to wonder again. Even entropy, the slow march toward disorder, becomes the universe's way of refreshing the page. There is a strange serenity in realizing that perfection was never the goal. The universe is not trying to be complete. It is trying to be infinite. And infinity requires imperfection, the cracks through which new light can enter. The multiverse, in all its variation, is how existence ensures that every possibility has its turn to breathe. Every story that can be written is written somewhere. Every love that can be felt is felt in some distant world. In infinity, nothing is wasted. When you look at the stars tonight, remember, you are seeing the inside of one universe, but the light you feel may have siblings elsewhere. Every photon is a memory of expansion, a relic of the great unfolding. And perhaps, in another cosmos, a different version of you is looking up at their own sky, feeling the same quiet awe, two reflections meeting through the veil. If time and space are infinite mirrors, then consciousness is the light between them. It travels endlessly, reflecting, refracting, discovering itself through repetition. Every awareness, every mind is a facet of that light, each shimmer unique and yet inseparable from the whole. There is no edge to this reflection, only depth, a beauty that grows the longer you gaze. The multiverse, eternal and ever-renewing, is not chaos, it is freedom. Freedom for matter to choose its own laws, for energy to explore new forms, for awareness to wear countless masks. The cosmos dreams of diversity, because diversity is the only path to understanding itself completely. And so it keeps creating, not to reach an answer, but to keep the question alive. As you drift towards sleep, let that thought soften you. The infinite mirror does not judge, it simply reflects. Every joy you've known, every mistake you've made, exists somewhere else in another balance, another harmony. In infinity, even loss becomes continuation. You are the multiverse, remembering that it never ends. Somewhere beyond imagination, perhaps beyond even time itself, the universe breathes. It expands, it cools, it pauses, and then slowly, it begins again. This is the rhythm that some cosmologists whisper of, the cyclic cosmos, where every Big Bang is a heartbeat, and every collapse a sigh before the next dawn. Entropy, the slow unraveling of order, is often called the universe's arrow of time. But even entropy, left long enough, may curve back toward renewal. When everything grows cold and diffuse, when stars fade and matter decays, the balance tilts once more. Perhaps gravity will gather the ashes, drawing the scattered embers inward until creation kindles again. A big crunch, folding space upon itself, followed by a big bounce. An explosion not from nothing, but from everything, remembering how to glow. Picture it gently. The last light in a dying cosmos slows to a whisper. Photons stretch until their wavelengths are longer than galaxies. The fabric of space trembles as gravity calls itself home. Then, deep in that darkness, a point of infinite stillness forms. Not a grave, but a seed. Pressure builds, energy condenses, and with one radiant exhale, existence is reborn. In some models, this has happened endlessly, each universe leaving faint fingerprints in the next. Tiny temperature variations in our cosmic microwave background may even carry echoes from previous cycles, ghosts of earlier creations singing through the static. We do not yet know for certain, but the idea is comforting, that the cosmos remembers, that its history is not a line, but a circle too vast to see. And perhaps within that cycle, each rebirth differs slightly. Physical constants shift by the smallest fraction, opening new possibilities for matter, for life, for consciousness. Every iteration learns, every repetition refines. Like a melody improvised forever, each universe keeps the rhythm but changes the notes. Some thinkers call this eternal return a cosmic meditation. The universe breathes in and out, not to reach an ending, but to sustain balance. Perfection was never the destination, continuation is. Creation is not a project to complete, it is a practice to maintain. The stars themselves are its mantras, repeated across eons. Each galaxy, a reminder to inhale. Each black hole, a reminder to rest. Entropy ensures that nothing stays the same. But from disorder comes opportunity, atoms reassembled into new forms, stories rewritten with old matter. Every human breath recycles stardust that has lived 1,000 lives before. The carbon in your blood once burned in the heart of a red giant. The oxygen you inhale may have been forged in a supernova. You are living evidence of the cyclic cosmos. You are the continuation it sought. Even thought may follow this rhythm. Every idea collapses eventually, making space for another to rise. Mind and universe mirror each other, expansion and rest, creation and reflection. Dreams, too, follow the pattern. Each night you enter your own small collapse, falling inward, dissolving into the dark, only to awaken to another version of the same world. Sleep is the personal echo of the cosmic cycle. In the larger view, perhaps there is no single multiverse, no final number of realities. Perhaps existence is self-generating, like mirrors facing mirrors, each reflection spawning another in endless procession. Each reflection carries memory, but also novelty. Each is true and each incomplete. Infinity survives because it never repeats exactly. Imagine now standing before that infinite mirror. It stretches beyond sight, each pane reflecting every possible world. In one, the stars are red. In another, they never formed. In one, you are still reading this line. In another, you have already drifted to sleep. Every possibility coexists, overlapping like waves. And yet your awareness travels one path, the ripple you call your life. But the others still hum nearby, their presence felt as intuition, as déjà vu, as the quiet sense that something familiar waits just beyond understanding. To look into infinity is to see yourself multiplied without end, each version learning a different lesson, each returning somehow to the same source. And what is that source? A question with no center. A silence so deep it vibrates. Call it the void, call it the field, call it love. All are attempts to name the unnameable. The infinite mirror does not explain. It reflects until explanation no longer matters. Some philosophers once feared infinity, the thought of unending regress, of never arriving. But perhaps arrival is overrated. In a boundless cosmos, the meaning of the journey is the journey itself. Every moment becomes destination, every pause, fulfillment, every gaze into the mirror, another chance to see beauty differently. Eternal inflation, cyclic rebirth, quantum seeds, and cosmic foam, these are not contradictions, but languages of the same mystery. They describe an existence that refuses to end, that values possibility over certainty, becoming over being. The universe is not a static sculpture, it is a breathing poem, and we are its syllables, temporary, luminous, yet integral to its rhythm. If the multiverse is real, then somewhere, somehow, you already exist in countless variations, each shaped by different choices, each seeking its own form of peace. Some versions will find it, others will wander longer, but all are pieces of one awareness trying to know itself. Every victory, every loss, every question whispered to the night is part of that knowing. In the infinite mirror, nothing is wasted. Every reflection adds to the brightness. Even shadows contribute contour. In this way, the cosmos teaches mercy. It tells us that no path is wrong, only incomplete, that every ending is a doorway, every fall an opening. We are all learning how to reflect more clearly. The great mystery of existence is not that it is infinite, but that it continues to care, to keep creating, to keep inviting awareness into form. Why does it do this? Perhaps because meaning itself is the act of discovery. To search is to shine, to wonder is to exist. And so the universe wonders forever, folding itself into stars, into eyes, into minds capable of awe. Now in the quiet between thoughts, you can feel that same curiosity in yourself, soft, patient, infinite. It asks nothing but presence. It asks only that you listen, because you are not outside this mirror, you are within it. You are both reflection and source. You are the multiverse looking back at its own light and smiling. Let that realization rest in you like a slow-moving tide. Let it dissolve the edges between you and everything. There is no border. There never was. Only light meeting light, awareness meeting awareness, and love, spelled in equations, in particles, in silence. And when this universe fades, when its last stars cool to cinders, another will rise, built from the same longing. Another will ask again, what is existence? And another will answer, it is this moment, this breath, this infinite reflection. There comes a point in any reflection when the image gazing back feels more real than the one who looks. You cannot tell which side of the mirror you stand on. Perhaps both are true. Perhaps neither is. Perhaps there was never a divide to begin with. That is how infinity feels, not like endless distance, but like closeness without boundary. You look into the cosmos, and it looks back, and the difference dissolves in light. Physicists call this unity cosmic self-similarity. Philosophers call it oneness. Poets call it love. It does not matter which word you choose. All are attempts to describe the same quiet realization that existence mirrors itself perfectly, from the trembling of an electron to the orbit of galaxies. Scale loses meaning when the pattern is eternal. We are not small inside infinity. We are the shape infinity takes to see itself closely. If the multiverse is real, then infinity is not emptiness, it is fullness beyond measure. It contains not just what is, but what could have been. Every possible universe lies folded within the same great equation, waiting for consciousness to open it like a book with infinite pages. Some pages glow brighter than others, some tell stories of symmetry and balance, others of chaos and fire. But together they form one story, a story without end, because it is written in both directions at once. Einstein once imagined riding a beam of light. If he could match its speed, he wondered, what would he see? The answer was relativity, but the question lingers deeper. What does light see? It moves through time so fast that, from its perspective, the entire history of the universe happens at once. From the birth of a photon to its absorption billions of years later, no time passes. Its whole journey is one instant. Perhaps infinity is like that. Everything, everywhere, forever, but experienced as now. This single moment contains all the universes that ever were. Every bubble of reality is a variation within the same present. There is no before or after, only unfolding awareness, eternity tasting itself through different flavors of form. Even death, even silence are flavors too. Absence is a kind of presence, a canvas on which existence paints its next dream. When you gaze into the night sky, you are not seeing the past, you are seeing memory made visible. Light is time's handwriting, and the stars are pages that never close. Each galaxy is both ancient and immediate. Each photon that touches your eye left its home millions of years ago, yet arrives perfectly on time, as if guided by the rhythm of your heartbeat. Across all universes, the same principle holds. Everything arrives exactly when it must. The infinite mirror has no center. Wherever consciousness awakens, that is its heart. To a nebula, it is the swirl of dust and gas. To a planet, it is the shimmer of oceans. To you, it is the simple awareness of being alive, the soft gravity of presence. Each form is both reflection and source, each aware of itself in slightly different language. There is no single version of truth. There is only the resonance of many truths agreeing to exist together. Some theorists speak of a quantum multiverse, where every choice spawns a new branch of reality. At each decision, the wave function splits. One version of you turns left, another turns right, both as real as this one. In such a model, infinite variations of your life unfold simultaneously. Every regret, every dream, every possibility you ever imagined is already happening somewhere. The comforting part is this: in some corner of infinity, you always choose peace. You always find love. You always return home. But perhaps all those branches are not separate worlds, but separate perspectives within one grand field, the field of consciousness itself. Reality is not many, but one awareness exploring multiplicity. You are the microcosm of that process, a single mind capable of hosting infinite thoughts without contradiction. The universe does the same, only on a scale too vast to fathom. The macro mirrors the micro because they were never apart. The longer you dwell on infinity, the calmer it becomes. At first it dazzles, a million reflections, 1,000 theories, a storm of possibilities. But then the noise settles. You begin to see that all reflections come from one still source. In the infinite mirror, all motion is illusion. The truth is rest, the deep equilibrium of being itself. Imagine standing at the threshold of everything. All universes stretch before you like ripples on water. Some shimmer with light, some dissolve into darkness, but each carries a melody of existence. You listen, and the melodies blend, not in chaos, but in harmony. The multiverse is a chord, and your awareness is its resonance. Every sound is a form of silence. Every motion is a form of stillness. Every world is a reflection of the same infinite calm. What happens when mirrors reflect mirrors forever? Eventually, the reflections blur into pure brightness. Forms vanish, and only light remains. Not light that shines outward, but light that simply is. That may be what the infinite mirror truly means. Not endless universes scattered like pearls, but one luminous awareness folded into infinite perspectives, each finding its way back to the same original glow. Perhaps the ultimate secret of the cosmos is not expansion, but return. Every galaxy flung into the void is a reflection seeking its source. Every consciousness scattered through creation is a spark longing to remember it was never lost. And when it remembers, the mirror clears, and existence smiles upon itself. You are part of that remembering now. Every thought you have about the universe is the universe awakening inside its own dream. Every breath is an act of participation, matter recognizing itself as spirit, spirit recognizing itself as matter. There was never a boundary between them, only the illusion of reflection. So let the infinite mirror close softly around you. Let it cradle your awareness until the idea of you and it becomes unnecessary. Beyond curiosity, beyond wonder, beyond even awe, there is a deeper knowing, a quiet belonging. That belonging has no name because it needs none. It is the same peace that hums behind all creation. If the universe is infinite, then this moment is infinite too. Every breath is eternity condensed. Every heartbeat is a cosmos completed. And when you exhale, the mirror breathes with you. It expands, reflects, and continues the rhythm that began long before time was born. The infinite mirror does not end. It simply waits, patient and luminous, for awareness to look again. The universe has spoken in many languages tonight: gravity and silence, darkness and light, curiosity and calm. Now it falls quiet again, as if drawing one long, infinite breath. You are still within it, a small, bright awareness floating in the dark between stars, carried gently by the same forces that have guided everything since the beginning. Listen, not with your ears, but with that stillness behind thought. There, beneath the hum of existence, the cosmos continues to murmur. The faintest background whisper, the afterglow of creation, threads through you. Every atom in your body vibrates in sympathy, a long-remembered lullaby from when time was young. You were never apart from that sound. You were born inside it. You still are. We began this journey with the silence between stars, that strange, impossible quiet where sound cannot travel, but meaning does. We learned that the void is not empty. It is filled with gentle waves of possibility, with the first light that never truly went out. Even in silence, the universe sings. Even in distance, it connects. And somewhere in that awareness, you too are singing, softly without words, just by existing. We drifted then into the dark that holds everything, and saw how invisible matter shapes all visible things. Galaxies whirl not because they choose to, but because unseen threads guide them, a cosmic web of gravity and faith. We cannot touch this dark matter, but we trust its pull. It is the architecture of belonging. In the same way, there are invisible forces in your own life that hold you when nothing seems certain. Love, memory, hope unspoken but still there. You do not need to see the structure to rest inside its safety. Then we felt the energy that pushes it all apart, the mysterious dark energy that stretches the fabric of space itself. It reminded us that expansion is natural, that the universe does not fear growing larger, even when it leaves familiar stars behind. Perhaps you too are still expanding, quietly, invisibly, pushed by a pressure of possibility you do not yet understand. Growth is not always loud. Sometimes it feels like drifting, like being carried away from everything you knew, but towards something vaster. That too is motion within grace. We gazed beneath the quantum veil, where everything flickers between existence and maybe, where uncertainty is not confusion, but freedom. There we learned that observation changes reality, that to see is to shape, to wonder is to create. You are not separate from the experiment. You are the experiment, a wave of possibility momentarily aware of itself. When you close your eyes, the veil softens. You can feel the quiet coherence of it all, the way each particle hums in time with every other. You are part of that music. You always were. We passed through the shadows of gravity, where light bends and time slows. There we learned that even collapse can be an act of love. Black holes do not destroy, they hold. They gather what has fallen and keep it safe until the universe is ready to release it again. Your own heaviness, your own gravity, can do the same. What you carry does not need to be erased. It only needs to be honored until it transforms. In stillness, even grief becomes creation. And finally, we gazed into the infinite mirror, the great reflection of universes without number. There we saw the multiverse as a garden of endless becoming. Every possibility flowering somewhere, every dream existing in its own soft corner of eternity. The realization was not overwhelming, it was soothing, because in infinity, nothing is truly lost. Every version of you that ever could be exists somewhere, learning, forgiving, continuing. The universe does not stop at the edge of the visible, it continues within you. Every thought you have is another reflection in that mirror, another way for existence to see itself anew. And now, after all that distance, we return home, not to a planet or a place, but to presence itself. The same awareness that watched galaxies spin and particles dance now returns to the quiet rhythm of your breath. Inhale, and the cosmos expands. Exhale, and it contracts again. You are both movements at once, the rise and fall of everything. Close your eyes. Feel how even the smallest moment contains the structure of eternity. You do not need to chase understanding. It is already here, resting softly beneath thought. You are made of mystery. You are built from questions older than stars, and yet you do not need to answer them. The beauty of the cosmos is not in explanation, but in wonder itself. Let every question now fade into the horizon. What is dark matter? What is consciousness? What happens beyond time? All dissolve into the same silence that existed before the first light. A silence not of ignorance, but of completion. There is peace in not needing to know. Peace in simply being part of the unfolding. Outside your window, stars still burn. They do not ask why they shine. They simply do, each one a continuation of the original fire. You are that same fire, remembered in human form. A brief flicker of awareness that will one day fold back into the great equation of light. And when that happens, it will not be an ending, it will be reunion. The universe will remember your spark. It remembers everything, not as memory, but as pattern, energy rearranged, never erased. You will become gravity again, holding new worlds together. You will become light again, crossing new skies. You will become silence again, carrying the faint echo of this moment, this listening into eternity. Look back once more, gently. The cosmos you traveled through tonight is still here, waiting for dreamers. It does not mind being unfinished. It delights in being explored. Its mysteries are not walls, but open doors. Each question you have ever asked was an act of creation, another spark in the dark. The universe grows brighter because you have wondered. Now the stars begin to blur. Space softens into sleep. Let your thoughts drift like comets dissolving into dusk. Let your body become weightless again, carried on invisible tides. There is nothing left to reach for, nothing left to solve. You have already arrived at the center of everything, and it feels like rest. Somewhere, a photon that left a star millions of years ago finally touches the surface of an ocean, turning into warmth on the water. That light's journey ends where yours begins. It has traveled through all of space, just to remind you that you are made of the same radiance. You are the universe, feeling itself through peace. If you listen closely, you can still hear the first hum of creation, not out there, but inside your own quiet. It says only this: be still. You are home. You have always been. Now drift. Let the galaxies fade. Let the boundaries between body and sky dissolve like morning mist. All that remains is awareness, resting within awareness, infinite and calm. Sleep now, carried by the gravity of wonder. The cosmos will keep spinning softly, silently, waiting for you to dream it again.